1 minute. Chicago's 1 hour behind, right?
Yes.
Got a Bulls game starting at 9 local time.
What was that?
That Chicago's an hour behind.
Yes, sir.
They got Nets Bulls tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, so 9 local time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, the Hump Day edition here on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network, where another day and another NFL head coach fired. I don't know if we'll have any left by the Super Bowl at this rate. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. Still have a job, better than Joe Judge. Always liked this week, Dave, and I feel much better about employment than I do the other 51 weeks of the year.
Here's the thing that concerned me, though. I mean, the beginning of the end for Joe Judge was apparently not his one-loss record. It was the 11-minute diatribe after their second-to-last loss of the year in Chicago. Mark, you and I go on plenty of diatribes. He got fired based off of one. I mean, do you know what the odds are then for us?
They diminish quickly, but again, we are required to do diatribes for 11 minutes at a time, 3-4 days a week.
At least. It is true. It's kind of sort of part of the job description, but I'm just saying it can lead to trouble. We just witnessed it. A diatribe was the beginning of the end for maybe he'll never. I mean, what are the odds that he'll get another job?
I don't think he'll ever get another head coaching job.
I mean, when you go 10-23 in 2 years, you got to put in a lot of work for a lot of years for somebody to give you a second shot.
That's it.
Could very well be. And he's 40. That's a lot of years as an assistant.
Yes.
Coming up.
And not to mention, he was a special teams guy.
Right.
They usually don't go from special teams coordinator to head coach to OC.
Correct. But the Giants make the 7th team that is now looking for a head coach. 3 of them are also looking for a general manager. One would think that would slow down their process as to hiring a coach. You would think advantage Denver, Miami, Jacksonville, and Las Vegas because they already have GMs in place.
I guess it means you'll get coaches that, don't want any power. That could be a good thing.
Although I have to admit, if I was interviewing for the Jacksonville job, I'd want a little say. I don't exactly have a lot of faith in the people who have been picking the players here.
Well, David, I know that's what, and it's a nice comment to make, but when they're keeping the general manager, unless because that really has to be then your first question. And if the general manager is doing the interviewing, it could go a lot like our first act together when you start answering those questions, start asking those questions. Because when you look at the person who's interviewing you and you answer the very first question with, well, it's great to see you too, Trent. Trent, just one quick question for you. How much are you going to be involved in decision-making as far as personnel?
Are you planning on staying? Is that an inappropriate question?
Because this will last longer than Miller and Moulton's last renegotiation.
Right, 4 minutes, by the way, officially.
Depending on your answer.
If you show up in a clown costume for the Jags job, is that probably ill form?
Depends on who's doing the interview.
How about just the nose? What if you just brought the nose and you sat down and you said, hey, just to lighten the mood a little bit, and you just put it on the end of your nose and you go, what do you think? No? All right. How you guys doing? But Giants, Bears, Vikings need a GM and a head coach. We will head to New York. We will head to Chicago during this show to talk about where the Giants and the Bears go from here.
Oh, my.
We will head across the alley, talk to Dave Hyde about the Dolphins and the mess that Stephen Ross has created once again. That is the problem, too. I mean, everybody can be fired except an owner.
Bingo.
Damn. That's tough. Like, Chris in our chat room, Ross needs to go. Yeah, I
don't know what to tell you. That ain't happening.
Right. I mean, they did just have back-to-back winning seasons for the first time since 02 and 03. I mean, somebody needed to point that out to them and go, listen, you didn't own the team then. But just so you know, all right, when you send out this release and you go to the podium, these are the headwinds that you're walking into.
Well, it doesn't matter whether or not he was there, David. Someone could have just looked at him and go, you understand, for the first time since you've owned this team, we've had more wins than we've had losses in back-to-back years, Mr. Ross.
Right.
And you want to fire this guy.
Right.
And you don't have a plan as to who you're going to bring in.
I know. That is the other thing that is now very apparent. They're starting from scratch just like everybody else.
That is disturbing, David.
Yes.
It really is disturbing. The fact that he got a hair misplaced and decided, well, Flores has to go. And when it happened, I mean, I said out loud, okay, Harbaugh's coming to Miami. We find out an hour and a half later, if even not even that, 30 minutes later, that Harbaugh's not on their radar.
No, we're not interested in Jim Harbaugh. I'm not going to be the guy to take Jim Harbaugh away from Michigan.
I care more about Michigan than I care about my NFL franchise.
Yes. Well, I've given him more money.
And he has. And he's given $500 million to the Dolphins.
Right. Well, I mean, he gave it to the stadium anyway.
Well, yeah, he also bought the team. So he's in for...
Oh, no, he's in for a few. He's in for a few.
Still has given more to Michigan.
By the way, speaking of which, and I don't know if I have it in the starting five here, but it'll come up, I think, at some point again between now and 10 o'clock. So the Broncos now can be sold. That's been a dispute. Pat Bowlen died 2.5 years ago, and you got nobody in the Bowlen family they couldn't agree to keep the team, but then you had former owners who are like, hold on, we've got like right of first refusal. And they're like, no, you sold your stake and it had to go to court. And apparently now the coast is clean. The Broncos can be sold. Care to guess? Mark, you dabble in real estate. You've got your license. All right, you know what a house these days is listed for on Monday and then what you could relist it for on Friday. Care to take a guess? You are listing the Denver Broncos.
1.5?
Oh, no. You haven't driven through this neighborhood in a while. Prices have gone way up.
I don't even know because that's a good NFL franchise.
Yeah.
It's an average middle of the rung NFL franchise. It's not a Cowboys. It's not a Giants. It's not a Bears.
No,
but it's in the next tier, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was a second tier franchise. They've had 5 straight losing seasons, which they haven't had maybe since the AFL days, but yeah, it's a solid.
I don't even know that.
Good franchise.
Are there 2 numbers before the comma for an NFL franchise?
No.
I didn't think so.
We haven't gotten to 10 billion yet. No, we're not there.
So I don't know. 5?
Well, you're close. Okay. Apparently, the realtors in the area have said that the franchise will go on the market for 4. Right. Which then makes you wonder what Jera could get. If they're going to get 4 or higher for the Broncos, which in terms of net worth and this, that, and the other thing, I'd probably put them about 12th on the list. Does that sound about right?
Somewhere between 12 and I would say 12 and 18 personally, but I don't.
So there you go. And the Cowboys obviously are number one in the stadium and the whole deal. And Jerry didn't pay $200 million for that franchise. I mean, as he said, I scrounged up everything I had. It was like 170 something is what he bought it for in 89 there.
It's got to be approaching 10.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, the Cowboys would have to be worth double the Broncos, right?
Yes.
So
yes. I mean, that's why if it's 4 and
Cowboys got to be
and
8.
it's what's going on in the real estate world, whereas
Right.
they're going to start out, someone's going to go 4, someone's going to go 4-2, and Bezos is going to go, if I just say 5, you going to take it?
Well, that's what he should do. And today's his birthday, by the way. He should just say, hey, happy birthday, Denver. $5 billion cash. Is that good enough? All right. Yeah, I'm going to go a little Balmer here. I'm just going to, I know.
We're going to end this now.
Yeah, there's no reason to drag this out. And I'm going to decide whether or not Elway or Peyton is running things. It'll probably be Peyton because John's had his shot. Okay.
And he's not been very good at it.
Well, I mean, he was when he got Peyton.
Well, yes.
Which is another reason why I'm choosing Peyton. So what do you say? $5 billion, all cash deal. What do you say? We wrap this up 3 weeks, dot the I's, cross the T's. Me and Lauren, we're going to go on another trip. I may go into space. When I come back down, we do the deal. What do you say? So he's 58 today, by the way.
How does that make you feel about what you've accomplished?
I know. I try not to think about that.
When you were in your 20s and 30s,
right?
And people had all of this,
Yep.
had done all of these accomplishments and all these wonderful things, it was nice.
Sure.
When you're in your 50s and other people in their 50s are going to space, you kind of
right
really have to assess, David.
Right. Now, I will say, I think it's fair to say he's overachieved. I mean, I think that's fair.
There's no doubt.
Right. I mean,
I'm not looking at Fred, who runs the bank down the road,
right.
I
mean, when you're worth a couple $100 billion, I think you've overachieved.
Right.
I really do. But that doesn't mean that you and I haven't underachieved.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
Just takes one overachiever to show you how little you've achieved.
And especially when that overachiever really overachieves. Man.
We overachieved with our show today.
You know what? Did a darn good job lining this thing up.
I mean, our guests have guests.
Yes. This is it, by the way. This is the last segment that we're just talking off the top of our heads. We've got guests for all 13, 17 segments the rest of the way.
David Hyde with the Dolphins. Seth Everett to talk about whatever it is he wants to talk about.
Right.
Ryan Dunleavy covers the Giants. We'll talk with him. Patrick Finley covers the Bears. We'll talk with him, and we'll check back in and see how things are in Georgia with Ryan Kerley to see if he has even been to bed yet since the Dogs won their natty.
So that's our show. That's a hump day edition.
We overachieved today. You
know what? Knock on wood. The guests have to answer the call, but I agree. On paper,
we're overachievers.
We are. All right. The value of this show has gone up today. All right. Now, we haven't had the home inspector come in and, really take a close look. But on paper, the value of this show has gone up. Miller and Moulton. Thanks for starting your day off with us here on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Mark,
Yes.
what do you think is the sexier head coaching job right now? The Vikings or the Bears?
Sexier?
Mhm.
Neither.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
The Dolphins.
Yes, that's what I like to hear.
I suppose the Bears.
You know, it's good for the NFL when the Bears are good. Chicago. Although I'd love to go to a Vikings game. That new stadium looks incredible. US Bank Stadium, I think. Hi, Twitch chat.
Have
Thanks for the cheer, Adam.
you seen this? Gronkowski getting.
the million.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
You got a millie?
Millie,
You got a millie?
we're going to the
Go to the city.
Need that seventh catch, Tom.
Did you hear him in the presser when he was asked about it? He's not taking time to dinner.
No. Yep. Love that. Nope.
So, Jeff Bezos went to high school like 10 minutes away from my house.
Hmm.
Kind of crazy. First time I like really discovered who he was and how rich he was, and I was like, this man grew up in my neighborhood.
So he decides he's done with his wife and he's going with Lauren Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he didn't sign a prenup. All right. So it comes time for the divorce and we're going to negotiate this. And I think he just like wrote her a check for like 32
billion?
Yeah. Because she became the richest woman in the world overnight.
She was like the 10th richest person overnight.
Right. Right.
By the way, Jack Lemmon's, if this is to be true, Jack Lemmon's headstone, couple flowers, it says Jack Lemmon in. That's spectacular.
Okay, so I thought of something. You remember the Concorde, the plane?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you know how there's talks that they want to bring back like a more reliable, sustainable Concorde that would.
Okay.
Okay, so they want to bring back that. They want to bring back supersonic commercial travel. If they make a better Concorde that can get you from New York to London in 4.5 hours, do you think that increases the chances of the NFL moving to London?
I don't think it matters at all.
No?
Not
Nope.
one bit.
Not one bit.
You don't think that teams will roll up in Concordes?
Don't think it matters at all whether or not you could get there in 2 hours or 6.
Because that's one of the things about, I guess, that is, it's a far
How much
travel.
money are they going to pay to have a team in London? That's the only thing you need to worry about.
That's a good point.
That's it.
I don't know how that's going to work.
Well,
Really well.
I hope so. That'd be cool. We just
it will
infect
work
Europe.
well.
If we infect Europe with football, that'd be crazy.
It will be something that sports media and what have you will bitch and moan about and what have you, and it will just be ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
19 minutes after the hour, top of the morning to you, Miller and Moulton, a hump day edition on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. I know this is a bit of a downer, all right? And so I probably shouldn't go here, but did you hear the news about Tim Rosafort? All right. The longtime golf writer, and he's been on the Golf Channel forever. Passed away yesterday, 66. Fast-moving Alzheimer's, they said. I mean, it less than like 18 months. All right. The Golf Channel just did wall-to-wall coverage yesterday, and people told amazing stories as to what he did for so many people in the world of golf. But we got a lot of golf fans up along the west coast of Florida, and sad day in the golf world yesterday. So just wanted to, because I didn't know if I was going to get that in the starting five. So I just wanted to, because I got a lot going on today, Mark. I mean, look at that. Look at that paper. It's just, I got arrows.
I know you still use paper. I got it. The pens and paper and all that stuff. You use all of it. It's great.
Mark, I wrote 2 checks yesterday, 2 stamps. Yes.
Don't get me started.
How about a poll question based on that? All right. When's the last? What did you use last? A check or a stamp? That's early nomination. The first hour of the show, we take nominations for the poll question. That's mine. I'm sure you can do better.
I like that.
I'm just throwing one up there.
I like that. I'm glad you got to the bank and to the post office, and
I didn't get to the bank.
Maybe
That's
to the dry cleaners as well.
You would be proud of me, though. I actually transferred money electronically yesterday. I mean, I still wrote 2 checks and used 2 stamps, but I at least did transfer money electronically, right on my phone and everything. I thought you'd be proud of me. That's progress.
I would have only been proud of you if you'd transferred it to me mistakenly.
I've probably done it, given it to other people before. They just have been, haven't told me. But I'm trying, Mark. Really, I'm trying. By the 2030s, I'll almost be there. I really will. And by there, I mean about 2005. But so
you're getting there. Just keep matriculating down the field of life, David, and you will eventually get there.
Thank you, Coach Stram. Yes, I will. If you've ever texted the show, you can let us know what you've used yet last, a check or a stamp. FSN Radio, all one word, to 21,000. FSN Radio to 21,000.
If I had to find a check, to write a check, I don't know if I think I know where they are. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I wrote a check.
No, all right. I'm being serious now when I ask you this. You can't remember the last time you wrote a check.
I don't know if I've written a check this decade.
Okay. Well, that's 2+ years.
That's what I'm saying.
So you think that we're going back to the 20 teens?
Maybe.
All right, that's fair.
You got Venmo?
I do.
Zelle?
I've got that too.
All right.
Right.
Well, good. What do I need?
Just, I don't really like them. All right. Keep track and everything, and now you
keep track of Venmo too. It says right here, transferred $50 to David Moulton.
No, I know. But, I like to compare what's down on paper to what it says electronically, see if they match up.
Funny story. So David obviously keeps track of the pathetic account that is the Miller and Moulton corporate account.
Right.
Because in order to do Acts 2 and 3, we had to form an LLC.
Right. And handle big money.
Because we don't work for anybody. We actually work for ourselves. Even in this gig, we essentially are independent contractors at the end of the day.
Although a lot more meetings with this third act than the second act.
There are. And David, I'm proud of you. You learned how to turn your camera and your microphone off yesterday. That was a far bigger accomplishment than transferring
I know.
money.
You were the one that was actually causing the disturbance, not me.
Can't help it. The lawnmowers come flying through at the beginning of the meeting. I'm trying to talk, and they decided. This is 3 conference calls in a row, by the way, that they've decided to mow the lawn in my neighborhood as the conference call's starting.
I hate that. And, of course, the rest of us are indoors and don't have that problem, and you're outside on your lanai.
I want to sit on my lanai, look at the pool, and enjoy the afternoon. It's not my fault you're making me have a 1:30 conference call, 2 o'clock conference call.
What's all that noise? Mark's like, oh, damn, I forgot to mute it.
But we have, because of this Twitch thing, we get very small amounts of money occasionally.
Right.
And David keeps track of our account. And I said, hey, the balance is X. He goes, oh, I don't know about a couple. So I took a screenshot of the
Glad you did.
Of the page from my bank account, our bank account, and I sent it to him. And then I get back from David later that day. Is it X dollars and 31 cents? Yes, David, it is. That's exactly what it is. And I knew at that moment that whether you were smiling, decided to give it a little fist, a Tiger 8-foot fist pump. You know, it wasn't a 20-foot birdie putt, but it was just a little, got it again.
It was a par to keep the round going.
Right, a U.S. Open par.
Yep.
And I knew so is the balance XXXXX and 31 cents. What ticks me off is I probably should have came back with, no, it's 34 cents. Because you would have spent the rest of the day trying to figure out where those 3 cents
would have totally messed me up. Johnny Mac in our Twitch chat room. Oh, so let me guess, a stamp to mail the check? Yes, Johnny Mac, but technically the check came first. Chicken or the egg? Check, then stamp. So Arch in our Twitch chat room says, I have to write one every month. The landlord doesn't have direct deposit. So there you go.
31 cents.
Check or stamp. What came first? So imagine you're the Bears, you're the Giants, you're one of these 7 teams, but really the Giants, Bears, or Vikings, because you've got GM and head coach openings. And in an ideal world, you hire the GM and then you hire the coach. Here's the problem. You may lose the coach you really want. Like Brian Flores is interviewing Friday in Chicago. My question would be, who are you interviewing with? Bill Polian? Because he's apparently picking the next GM. Well, what good does that do me if I interview with Bill Polian?
I don't understand. I guess I'm naive. I get search firms for certain things. You know, I think we all have some friends that have overachieved. And they run bigger companies than what we run, and you'll hear that they're hiring someone. Hey, we hired a search firm to get X, or we all know somebody that works in that world. There's 32 franchises.
Correct.
If you're using a search firm that other teams also use,
right?
Where are you getting a competitive advantage over the other teams? I'm not trying to mess around here.
No, preach it, Mark.
This doesn't make any sense to me. The college is even worse. Don't get me started on that. But at the professional level, you actually could argue the pro's worse than college, because at least in college we've got 130 Division I teams.
Right.
We have 32 NFL franchises. We're using search firms to hire general managers and coaches.
Mark, I got to be honest. I don't understand search firms, period. My question would be, well, what's your job then? I mean, somebody's job has to be hiring people, right? I mean, if you run a department, aren't you the one that hires the people in the department? Search firm. I've never understood. Now, if apparently search firm to line up people and I'll take it from here. Okay. I'm busy and you'll help me go through the 300 resumes. Okay, fine.
But I'm different. In the real world, I get the recruiters and I get going to find jobs because you're trying to go nationwide, and David Moulton in Fargo, North Dakota may not even know that he wants a job in Southwest Florida. But I know that I've put you in that job before and I can get you a better raise and I get that. But David, we're talking about an NFL GM here. How many real candidates are there?
I'm with you.
How many available qualified general manager candidates are there? 150 tops? I mean, really, truly. Might not even be that many.
Right. There are more viable sports talk show host candidates for jobs than there are people for a general manager's job.
Yes. And it's not close, and there's not a lot of these jobs.
So like Brian Flores is going to interview Friday with the Bears. And, of course, everybody in New York wants the Giants to hire Flores. They saw the job he did. I think he's 4-0 against the Jets the last 2 years also. So, they're like, and he's from the Bronx. It's like, oh, come on. He's perfect. Straight out of Central Casting here. Hire the guy. Oh, okay. You don't have a general manager. And they said we're going to hire a GM first and then go looking for a head coach. Well, and most teams, I think, would want to operate that way. But by the same token, I mean, aren't the Vikings, the Bears, and the Giants going to lose out on probably the number one person on their list? Because they're not going to move fast enough. I mean, I would not rush the hiring of a general manager. This is kind of important. And by kind of, I mean, like the biggest hire you can make, actually. I think it's more important than the head coach. So, I find this funny. And if I'm Brian Flores, there's a part of me that's like, well, why am I interviewing with you?
David, not to play just counterpoint to you. And you're right about everything you said about the GM. Why do I need to take that much time? And I'm not trying to be flippant here. We just got done agreeing that there are not that many real candidates. And if we were involved in this world, we should know. If you're the president of the Chicago Bears, you should always have a list.
Well, I agree with that.
Of who your next potential general manager is. I should be able to open a drawer and have 20 names written down right now. Then it's really simple. You start calling them or their agents. Are you interested? Like, David, I don't know how this takes more than an hour and a half to get to 5 people to interview.
Well, goodness knows in the Bears case, it's not like they decided late Sunday night or early Monday morning I was going to make regime change, which is why I could argue they should have made it a couple of weeks in advance. I would have gotten a head start on all this. I really would have. I mean, you're allowed to interview candidates now with 2 weeks left in the season, even if they're gainfully employed. I mean, I would have started this. And for all those that say, oh, it's bad form, this, that, and the other thing, what are you talking about bad form? I actually think it's smart. I could argue I don't think the Jags made enough progress. I mean, they had a huge head start on this.
And they're no further along than they were when they fired Urban. They've had an interview or two.
Right.
Okay.
Miller and Moulton. The starting 5 is next. Terrific show lined up for you. Dave Hyde, Seth Everett. We'll head to Chicago with Patrick Finley. We'll head to New York for Ryan Dunleavy. We'll head to Georgia with Ryan Kerley. What's going on? A Hump Day edition. Miller and Moulton, thanks for being with us, Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So I'll give you the benefit and say 6 full months. That's 126 shows. All right. We'd have to add almost 3 a show. All right.
We will add 50 or 60 during the draft. We do every year.
All right.
And I'm banking on Port Charlotte and Lake City at some point
Helping us out.
helping it, like,
Right.
adding 50 to 75 each from them.
Well, you pay close attention to the show when the listeners are aware of the new commercials.
You hear the same thing 5 commercials every day, 45,000 times.
Look at this. Multiple people going, hey, a new orange whip ad.
Well, one of them's Philly. I mean, the guy who.
No, I know, but we got 2 more.
The guy who did his job put it in there.
Right. But we got, PBJ, PBR there. We got Adam. So that's just it, Klecko. I don't know if I'm Flores. Do I really, I mean, the Giants are going to hire a GM first. Well, that's going to take a week.
New York Mets will retire Keith Hernandez's uniform on July 9th.
Yes. In a game against the Marlins. I think he will be the
Cardinals D coordinator getting interviewed for the Dolphins show, huh?
Is that Steve Wilkes?
Vance Joseph.
Oh, Vance Joseph. Who had the 1 year in Denver and got fired. Or was that Wilkes? Wilkes was in Arizona, I thought.
Do either of you know an FGCU professor by the name of Michael Donlin?
I know hardly nobody over there.
Hey, we got a cheer. Thanks, Albar.
Klecko, I think he was the Kirchen of the Golf Channel.
I don't even know who he is.
Wow, I think you did. You just don't know the name.
I don't ever watch
Oh, okay.
I don't watch any sports channels unless there's live sports on.
Well, there's a lot of golf on the Golf Channel.
Yeah, but I don't watch that much on there.
But you're not old enough yet.
When is
You're saying
old
this,
enough?
I'm going, you're on your own here. I got nothing.
I mean, 52 is young for the Golf Channel, but
Unless you work at a pro shop, of course.
RCB, I want the Giants to hire the player personnel guy with the Cowboys. Because in the last 8 to 10 years, when Jerry's taken his hands off of what's going on, they've acquired a lot of talent. They've done a pretty darn good job of acquiring talent. I don't know about coaching it up, but they've done a pretty good job of acquiring talent. And I would want somebody that knows the division really well. But I don't think he's leaving, because I do think that Jerry is able to kind of be the Eddie DeBartolo of the NFL, in which he just pays more behind the scenes and when he wants to treats people better.
Thanks for the sub, Arch.
I love when listeners are gifting our producer subs. That pretty much shows where we are as a show, I think. I don't want to say we have room for growth or anything.
A hype train just started in your channel. What the hell is a hype train?
A hype train?
Woo.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
All aboard.
Chugga, 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 chugga. Hype train! Just listen, that 8 hours sleep is not, the energy is not followed with it.
10 seconds.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Without further ado, it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
number 1, which is usually the case, is the National Football League. The Giants, upon further review, Mark, have fired Joe Judge.
No, I was just wondering, since the starting five is more of a basketball thing, and since we lead with the NFL, at what point are you going to take this to a starting 11?
Well,
Or an all 22 cam?
just-
That's what I'm worried about, David.
say the word, Mark.
Okay.
Just say the word. Whatever you do, just don't give me more time. Judge won 10 games in 2 years, and it was a mess. And this, by the way, means with Flores and Judge being fired, there are no Bill Belichick assistants that are currently head coaches in the National Football League.
The Joe Judge thing is so quintessential New York. As you brought up yesterday, David, he was the next coming.
Oh, a year ago. My goodness. I mean, off a 6-10 season.
Right.
This guy has got it figured out. He's going to be a young Parcells, a leader of men. I'm like, who's feeding you all this crap?
His agent.
But a whole New York media fell for it. And then,
And I guess that's the point, because they fall for it every time.
oh, yeah.
They fell for Adam Gase for an hour and a half, and then they hated him. It was a lot quicker. But every coach that they get, they can justify in their columns how great this coach is. And the fact of the matter is, football could not be any worse in New York right now than it is. It's
No.
never been this bad.
Well,
It's never been this bad.
Over the last 5 years, the two worst franchises in the league are the Giants and the Jets in terms of a one-loss record. Think about that. They're worse
Right.
than the Lions.
And the Jags.
And the Jags. Yes. The
We're going to have
Giants-
back-to-back first overall picks.
The Giants and Jets in the last 5 years combined have the exact same worst record in the league. It's a misnomer about the New York media, by the way. The New York media is tough if you get on their bad side. But if you can just stay above the curve, they're actually a bunch of lapdogs. I mean, they're big cheerleaders for the teams because there's 15
Because they're all
million
New
customers.
Yorkers. They all
Right.
wanted to work for these papers. This is no different than the Saginaw kid getting a job at the Saginaw News. It's just a smaller paper. They all dreamed of working at the Post or the Daily News and covering teams. We've had interns like this. I mean, you're right. And we all bow down to New York City for some unknown reason. Their media sucks like the rest of the media.
I don't know if it sucks, but I just don't think they're a whole lot different. They're actually bigger cheerleaders at a lot of cities, but then they're bigger on the other side. Nick points out in our Twitch chat room there, hey, New York football's fine, the Bills. It's New Jersey football that's a train wreck. Nick, you make a dadgum good point. You really do. That means there are 7 teams looking for head coaches: Giants, Bears, Vikings, Broncos, Dolphins, Jacksonville, and we still think the Vegas job is up for grabs. There are reports that Houston's about to fire David Culley.
And that's been out there for a couple of days. Jay Glazer reported on Sunday after the games that he thought he was a 1 in 4 chance of getting gassed.
Could somebody help me out here? They actually overachieved. Most people had Houston on the clock.
And skip the overachieving, which is true. What might they have? They might have a quarterback, David.
Yeah, they developed a young quarterback, oh, by the way. They played very hard to
Right
the
to
very
bitter
end. And, I mean, certainly showed it on Sunday. They're down 21-0 at the half. Would have been real easy to start planning your golf vacation. And instead, they came back and nearly beat the Titans. It's ridiculous. A Denver judge ruled that the former owners of the Broncos, their heirs have no rights to buy back the team. It clears the way for the Broncos to be sold. The Broncos have been valued at, are you sitting? Hold on to the wheel tight. $4 billion. Billion. They'll probably get 5. Richard Sherman back on IR with an Achilles injury. He's out for the year for the Bucs, who did activate Shaq Barrett from the COVID list. He's also missed the last few games with injury. The Lions and the Jets will be the 2 staffs coaching the Senior Bowl. 2 notes here. Do you know the Jets have not coached the Senior Bowl since '79?
That's interesting.
That is interesting. And apparently the head coaches, Campbell and Saleh, will not be the head coaches. They will just kind of oversee their staffs. The point is to try to get the assistant coaches all reps as being the head coaches in front of other NFL people. So they're trying to also develop now assistant coaches as well as the players.
Why don't they send Belichick's assistants all there and teach them how to be head coaches?
That's outstanding, Mark.
I'm trying to bring my level up. You challenged me early on in the segment, and I'm trying to bring some life to you, David.
Turns out Bama wide receiver Jameson Williams tore his ACL. He is draft eligible. He was valued as a top 10 prospect before the injury. We'll see how much it hurts, if at all, his draft stock. By the way, 7 players from Alabama and 2 from Georgia immediately entered the transfer portal after the game. The Gators, this is what we call in the business, Mark, a good career move. Rob Sale was the offensive line coach for the Giants yesterday morning. He decided to leave the Giants to become offensive coordinator / O-line coach for Billy Napier and the Gators about 6 hours before Joe Judge got fired. That's called a good career move.
Yes, that is.
Timing. Hey, the 76 Indiana Hoosiers are safe. They're the last undefeated team in men's college basketball in terms of a team that, won the national title undefeated. Yeah, because Baylor lost at home to Texas Tech yesterday, 65-62, and USC lost at Stanford, 75-69. There were a couple of really good top 25 games last night. Kansas beat Iowa State late, 62-61, battle of top 15 teams there. And Auburn, Bruce Pearl's got a Final Four type of team. And they went into Tuscaloosa and beat Bama 81-77.
I like their big guy. I watched a little bit of that last night. I like their big guy.
Well, and he can coach.
Absolutely.
I mean, he can cheat, but he can coach.
Well, one goes with the other.
Well, and it's been known to. Florida State beat Miami for the 8th straight time, 65-64. Raekwon Evans with 2 free throws with less than a second to go in a dramatic ending in Tallahassee. The Noles needed that one. Other scores in state, Liberty beat North Florida by 15. Jacksonville, they're undefeated in conference play. They beat Stetson 57-50. Mark, 6 of the 47 scheduled games got postponed in men's college basketball yesterday due to COVID. Women's hoops, UCF a winner over Houston. Also, top 25 coaches poll, FGCU is actually the highest ranked team in state. They're 23rd. South Florida is 24th. NBA game of the night, we called it, Memphis and Golden State. Warriors took a lead into the 4th. John Morant Company came back and won 116-108. The Grizz have won 10 straight and 20 of 24. Steph with 27 in the loss. The Warriors' loss combined with a Phoenix win over Toronto gives the Suns a 1-game lead for the best record. Cavs signed their GM to a contract extension through 2028. Damn. And they just signed the head coach Bickerstaff to an extension through like 26. Dan Gilbert's finally got it right. Got the right GM, the right coach to put a good young team together. Now don't louse it up. Hey, you paying attention to this whole Djokovic story?
How can you not? The updates, I believe, from yesterday is that once he was let in and said he was going to be able to play in the tournament, we found out that while he had his 14-day quarantine from COVID and wasn't supposed to travel, he was in at least 2 other countries.
Well, that's correct. And because he apparently lied, it's possible he could be arrested. Yes, that's right, arrested. Now, I'd like to think it's not going to come to that.
I don't know. The Aussies are not.
No.
They have no sense of humor with him.
No, they do not. No.
We find it to be hysterical.
Phenomenally so.
Right. In other news, David, I do know that he was named the number 1 seed for the Australian Open yesterday.
Right. That's if he's allowed to play in it.
That's the best part.
Or is he going to be allowed to play in it and then they're going to arrest him? I mean, we're not making this stuff up.
I hope they arrest him on the court.
I hope they arrest him at like a practice session the day before the tournament. The number 1 seed, Djokovic, is out on bond.
Get your rackets on the ground.
NHL, Cooch with a hat trick. Stamkos with a goal and 2 assists. The Lightning, who were annoyed that their game in New Jersey on Monday got canceled, took it out on the Sabres 6-1. And the Panthers at home, well, they're really good anywhere, but at home, they're the best team in the league. And they beat Vancouver 5-2.
First non-OT loss for Coach Bruce Boudreau since taking over for the Canucks.
And he took over like over a month ago.
Right.
The Penguins continue to keep on keeping on, and they got Moulton back last night. His first game of the year, he scored twice in a 4-1 win over Anaheim. A couple of other games of notes, good teams going at it. Nashville beat Colorado in overtime, and the Leafs in a shootout over Vegas. 2 of the 9 games, Mark, in the NHL were canceled because of COVID.
Good night for the league.
Yeah, that is a good night. And
7-9, that's pretty good for the NHL.
Right, 78%. I mean, the NHL will take a C the rest of the way. They're at 75% for tonight. 1 of 4 have been canceled already. Couple of sad notes in sports. Mentioned last segment, Tim Rosafort, longtime golf writer, and was on the Golf Channel for 20 years. Probably the Tim Kirchin of the Golf Channel, passed away after a surprisingly short battle with an aggressive form of Alzheimer's. He was 66. And the Rays bullpen catcher, John Ramirez, died yesterday. He was 28 years old. Former minor leaguer, been with the organization for a while. And the organization is shocked and had a bunch of nice things to say about the young man, 28 years of age. And one other baseball note, the owners and players are scheduled to meet tomorrow.
Good for them.
December 2nd is the last time they talked. As Burgess Meredith famously said,
What are you waiting for?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Eric Amarola, a Tampa native, announced he's going to retire at the end of this racing season. He drives the number 10 Ford, I believe it is, for Stewart Haas Racing. And he's best known for winning the Coke Zero 400 8 years ago. And they were testing at Daytona yesterday all day. Admission was free. And a whole bunch of the race teams were there. Like 20 of the drivers were there. Dale Jr. was testing on behalf of Hendrick. 10,000 fans showed up. Free admission. Come one, come all.
You race fans and free. That seems like a pretty good combination.
For a Tuesday from noon to 8, apparently. I mean, that sounds like an open house, you know. And that was the starting five.
That was the starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
So there was one other footnote that I knew you were not going to get to. I don't know if you're aware of this, but is it Kodak Black, the rapper? Do I got that guy right?
Correct.
He had a hell of a night last night.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Do tell.
He was at the Panthers game. And he was sitting on the glass and enjoying himself. They were putting him up on the Jumbotron, announcing, they got a rapper at the game and putting pictures up. Somehow then he got escorted or allowed to sit in a luxury suite.
Okay.
And then his date was kind of bent over some chairs in the luxury suite, which was right next to Panther management. And there is some very interesting video shot from the other side of the arena where you have Panther brass in suite A and Kodak Black in suite B getting busy.
I'm so happy that you're talking about this right now. This has made my morning.
That's hockey.
Yep, he's a super gremlin.
That's hockey.
That's how we roll.
That right there. At least in the minors, that's how we rolled. I don't know about, but the Panthers typically have minor league crowds at their games, so it kind of fits the MO.
Look at you. Look at you. New slogan for the Panthers, Panthers hockey. Getting busy with it.
There you go. Miller and Moulton, not getting busy with the damn thing. David Hyde, next hour. Bye.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Did a poll question. Yes or no? Will the Dolphins regret firing Brian Flores? Which one have you used most recently? A check or a stamp?
I like that. Lewis Riddick about shit. He's on Dan Patrick when the Flores thing happened. And this Brian Flores was just fired. Just this look on his face, like what the blank just happened.
Yeah.
They don't have anybody hired, David.
No, they just fired Brian Flores. They're starting from scratch, Mark.
Which have you used? Yep.
Check.
You guys have been to Panthers games, right?
Oh yeah.
They gotta the way that they replay and reuse that like generic panther growling noise.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they say a name, they play it. They say the name, they play it. It's just you gotta fix that.
PBR, PBJ there said Panther hockey scoring whenever they can. I like it.
Was the old line. We score between periods.
Des Val, Panthers hockey, pucking, entertaining.
Ah.
What have you used more recently? A stamp, a check. I want to say, what have you done more recently, though? You know, mailed.
Oh my God.
What have you done more recently? Or most recently?
Echo, who's a super gremlin. That's what they do. Never played hockey before. It's hard.
Well, it is the only sport on the planet you have to learn how to do something before you can play it.
That and I guess cycling.
Is cycling a sport or an activity? It's like those that argue golf or
Golf's
tennis.
not a sport.
Golf's not a sport; it's an activity.
You don't think golf's a sport?
No.
I think it is, but you can argue it's an activity.
So the Tour de France isn't a sporting event?
No, I would argue it is.
Yeah. So then cycling.
Which have you done most recently? Mailed a stamped envelope, written a check?
We're coming back.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Minute and a half past the hour, top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Dave Hyde to join us in roughly a half an hour to talk about the fact that apparently the Dolphins really did fire Brian Flores. This is not a bad dream. They're in the market for a new coach. After the 0-7 start, when they had maybe the worst roster since the 76 expansion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Brian Flores went 24-18 as head coach of the Dolphins. They just swept the Patriots, for goodness sakes. Back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in a generation. 02-03 under Dave Wanstad. Last time the Dolphins had back-to-back winning seasons. And by the way, Wanstad won the exact same number of games those 2 years. 19. A 9-win season, a 10-win season, and they missed the playoffs both years. So similarity is interesting there. And Dave was gone midway through the next year, as fate would have it, I believe. So
I am still just stunned that the new coach isn't hired. Like, I'm not being smart here. I don't, for the life of me, understand what happened. Like, he just got angry. He just had enough with the way this attitude. He got so sick of his general manager coming to his office saying, I just can't get along with the coach, that he fired the coach.
Well, he clearly didn't make up his mind the day before. I mean, you don't do something like this unless you haven't. I think the minute that they lost to Tennessee and then they were eliminated from the playoffs once the Chargers won that day, the minute that they missed the playoffs, Stephen Ross had decided, well, then I'm moving on.
Fine. Then what's your plan? Because you don't have one, David. If you're right, and I am going to give you every benefit of every doubt, because it actually makes the most plausible sense, that after the Tennessee game, the thought became more of a reality. And if that's the case, then how come there's no plan?
Well, he's got a plan, Mark. They're starting from scratch. We're going to interview Brian Daboll.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in a bunch of assistants who have never coached, and we're going to try to do the same thing again and expect different results.
I think
you know the definition of insanity.
I think there were a couple of guys who have actually been head coaches before. Now, there's no guarantee they're going to hire one of those guys, but I thought I saw a couple of guys on the list that have actually been a head coach before. Because if you go back, since Dave Wanstad, the Dolphins have not hired anybody who had been a head coach before. Cam Cameron, Tony Sperano, Joe Philbin, Adam Gase, Brian Flores. I mean, it's all first-time head coaches. That's the Dolphins. The Dolphins and the Jets have pretty much done the same thing.
And I've never been a recycled coach guy because I came from the hockey world. And I always watched all kinds of young assistants and minor league head coaches that I thought deserved a shot. Well, David, I don't think it's a big transition to coach a AAA hockey team to coach an NHL hockey team. I don't. You have some stars. You have to deal with a couple of egos, but it's not a sport driven by ego. Now, maybe in the rest of the sports it doesn't work. Maybe you can't go from college hoop to the NBA. Been very few that have done it successfully. You sure as hell can't do it with any success from Saturday to Sunday. There have been such a small number that have had success. And quite frankly, I know people keep giving me the Shulas and the Knowles. Great. I'm so happy that you can recite guys who were first-year coaches in 1965. It's a different league now.
And actually,
don't bore me with that anymore.
And actually, when the Dolphins got Shula, they acquired him because remember he was the head coach of the Colts.
Well, but
right,
and he was pretty successful with the Colts as a first. I mean,
right, took him
so
to a
no,
Super Bowl.
I get it, but these are the examples when you don't want to really get a first-time coach. This is what people put in front of us. I see it every day, and I laugh at them.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, like 3 generations ago.
Right, both guys are no longer with us. It was a while ago.
So it certainly seems, and Pat Kerwin's beat me down. Pat's right on this one. You have to, and you and I keep saying the same words. You got to hire an adult. I don't know how Miami thinks it's going to be different if they go the assistant route. I don't.
Well, and then they finally got one who looks as if he knows how to be a leader of men, and they fire him.
Do you think Brian Flores is going to end up being a successful head coach in the league? A really successful head coach in the league? Or do you think he'll just be another guy?
I think he'll be successful. I mean, he clearly has to work on a couple things. He went through assistant coaches like they were mints. And at least certainly the narrative that's being pushed in South Florida, and we'll talk more about that with Dave Hyde coming up in less than 30 minutes, is that he's a bit of a bull in the china shop in terms of his relationships with the front office and even with his own staff. Okay, that's fine. I mean, you know, Belichick was different in New England than he was Cleveland, too.
Right.
And I think over time, Nick would have lightened up a little bit. I mean, you know, look at the Nick Saban after the Georgia game. I mean,
I think all of us are that way. Like, I've only been a boss once. I look back, I was a terrible boss. Charles Barkley, terrible.
Terrible.
And I look back, if ever given that opportunity, I would do so many things differently. My passion for what I was doing wouldn't change. How I treat people would have changed immensely.
But, and we said this when he got fired nearly 48 hours ago. When a coach is fired, particularly when it's surprising, the organization does everything they can to disparage the guy they just fired. I mean, they do. They have to justify the firing. And they'll dump more dirt on said coach if, in fact, the immediate reaction from the media and the fan base is, what in the world are you doing? Oh, well, now we really got to air the dirty laundry. So Flores is getting crushed off the record by Dolphins team's officials right now. I mean, he was just a bad dude. I mean, that's the
couldn't
narrative.
work with other people.
Right. I mean, and wasn't good for Tua when, in fact, there are some people that are like, you know, Flores was the one that didn't want any part of Deshaun Watson. That was the owner. Flores was kind of like, can we just put this to bed? By the way, I don't think it was a coincidence that once the NFL trade deadline came and went, that Tua started playing a lot better and the Dolphins started winning.
And the first story that was out was Flores' relationship with Watson.
Right. And that's
in the Miami papers.
Right.
Not nationally, in the Miami papers.
Right. So I think it's smart for Flores not to talk, by the way. No statement, no nothing. He just
go get a job.
Yeah, exactly. Pack up your stuff and go.
When they ask you what happened in Miami, I won 9 games last year. You don't even talk. Right. Look, we had a winning season, back-to-back years.
Yep. I mean, we all know the standard coach speak that's going to come out of Flores if he were to get one of these other jobs that are available and say, hey, what happened in Miami? Listen, I love my time there. All right. The players were great. I thank Stephen Ross for the opportunity. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that opportunity 3 years ago. And, I'll just let our record speak for itself.
We do have a poll question up, David. It is your poll question.
All right.
Which have you done most recently? Mailed a stamped envelope, written a check. I did not leave a neither on there. You had to have done one.
Right. Recently could be 2017.
I think the stamped envelope would win for me. I think. But that, I don't know.
See, I'm thinking somebody used a stamp around Christmas.
Oh,
to
my wife
send
uses
out a
them all the
card.
time.
Right.
But I don't even take it from the inside of the house into the mailbox and lift the arm up on the mailbox. That's her.
See, I thought stamp would win too. I will say early returns, at least in the Twitch chat room, is check.
I don't expect our audience to be big letter writers, if you know what I mean. Big send a card in the mail. This isn't, we're not catering to the 30 to 60-year-old woman here.
I believe if you have written a check to pay a bill, that the answer is check. I understand that you write the check first and then you put the stamp on the bill, but I really think that.
So the check comes before the stamp?
Yes.
In
And
your world?
the check is the inspiration for said stamp. So
I don't, yeah, I no recollection what you're talking about, Senator.
Sir.
In fact, yesterday I got a phone call because we had some work done and we mistakenly didn't. It was a little bit of, you got it, I'll take it. I thought the wife paid the bill. She thought I paid the bill. And they called yesterday and I was in a panic because we don't not pay our bills.
Right.
And and the lady on the phone laughed. I go, said, I thought she did it. She thought I did it. Do I have to write you a check right now or do you take a credit card? She said, I take a card. I said, thank goodness, because I have no idea where the checks are.
You mean they're not in your bill drawer?
We have a bill drawer? If you say so.
We've got one. It's got a lot of things in it besides bills, I'll tell you that. But it is technically known as the bill drawer in our household. All I know is it's a mess. It's got more lottery tickets than anything else.
My wife has a desk. I think that's where all the bills go. That's where I throw.
Gotcha.
I just throw it on that pile.
So you pay some bills and she pays others, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's kind of like head coach coordinator there, who's delegating what. I find that
I'm more of a
fascinating.
special teams coordinator when it comes to this, David. I have very little responsibility.
But you talk with everyone in the household. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. I know what's going on both sides of the ball, and then I just take care of my few bills.
Right. And you're home more. So, the people who come at the house to do services, you're the one there.
Yeah.
So you know everyone in the organization.
Absolutely.
But you're not the boss. No kidding.
I've seen the job, and I don't want it.
Thank you, Bill Cosby. 13 minutes after the hour, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
But anyhow, that's where she is every month. She writes down every bill.
Yep.
The one column is, insurance, whatever.
Right.
And then the amount, and then the running balance. And then she also does it in the checkbook. So she keeps one against the other. I get to, got it right to the cent. Way to go, honey. And then I usually do this.
And then you go, so do I.
Honey, I got it right to the cent. And I look at this nearly daily.
I do too, because I'm always worried about fraud. All right, so that's why I check it.
Bastards at StubHub. Now taking tax money. I don't know who they think they are. Why is writing a check so much more satisfying than paying with card? It's not. Well, Spitz, make sure. I mean, if there's a check you need to write, it's for your wife's life insurance. Keep that up to date. I hate writing checks. I mean, hate it. Also, I have bad penmanship, and I'm a bad speller. You did miss the part of the thing yesterday when I was trying to express to that guy that I wanted to put video on there. When you checked out for a little bit.
No. I gave up.
Yeah,
I gave up. No, I was listening, but I just put the phone down, shined it up.
No. But at one point you left a little bit.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
No. And I just said to him, I go, let me explain this to you. I will be in the fetal position before the night's over to have to write 200 words. I go, there's nothing that gives me more anxiety.
Right.
So I'm a bad writer. That's why and I said, you want to know what I like writing about the very least? Sports. So don't know what to tell you. So you want to write about bourbon, chili dogs? Probably can knock out 250 words without batting an eye. Yeah, Ticketmasters as well. I don't know if Vivid is. I'm guessing they all got slapped here because it's right after the first of the year. It was a good little thing while it lasted. Quadrupled my money on Bucks first round playoff tickets.
Wait, what happened? Ticketmaster, Vivid Seats? I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm curious. They're taking tax info?
Yes.
Oh.
If you're selling tickets now, they are going to tax you for what you made.
Oh. Oh, no.
It was inevitable.
Yeah, it was. You were finessing, weren't you? Yeah. That's a finesse. One more segment, then Dave Hyde, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got $700 a pop for the Philly tickets. And paid $200 a piece, I think. I thought, what did they charge me?
Are your tickets upper, lower bowl or
Club seats.
Wow.
You're going to buy them, you don't mess around.
I mean, yeah, so you can flip them.
Let's see. Where's the Capital One account? God, do they love me. How many times they've raised my credit without even telling me?
Oh, I know.
I had like $20,000 or something like that. They just love
I know.
me.
I start with these credit cards. It's like 10, 15,000. Next thing you know, a few years later, you're at 35. I could take my credit cards together and buy a house with no problem.
And go call bankruptcy. $428 is all I paid. Holy cow, that's it? That must just be the tickets. That's not the parking too, is it?
Arrowhead looks so cool.
It is.
Bet you it's an awesome place.
It is. And when you consider that the stadium is pretty old, but they've refurbished it and it looks as if it's a newer stadium.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
19 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. Dave Hyde begins our spectacular guest list in about 15 minutes' time. He from the Sun Sentinel. We'll talk a little Finns. May even try to get in a little Panthers. You think can we ask a Panthers question, or is that allowed?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's like having a Tampa columnist and, throwing in a lightning question or two. I mean, I hope we're allowed to do that. We're big fans. Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Our poll question today on Twitter at Mark Miller or the David Moulton. So what have you used most recently? A check or a stamp?
And for the record, a couple people have said they've mailed a check in a stamped envelope. David Moulton has flat out told us today in one of the big questions, the check comes before the stamp.
I think so. The check is certainly the inspiration for the stamp. So
without the check, there'd be no need for the stamp.
Right. Now, I know you could argue if the question is, what have you used most recently, that you write out the check first. Therefore, what have you used most recently? You could argue the stamp because the check goes in and then you put the stamp on. I believe that's a technicality.
David, do you also have to write your return address on these, or do you have little stickers or a stamp?
Oh, no, I write them. My wife's got stickers. I'm not included, by the way. She got stickers for herself. All right.
You've got stickers and a stamp. You got a little stamp. I can just stamp it.
You've got a stamper?
Yeah, the wife got one.
Wow.
Big on the Christmas cards. It's got the emblem, the M on there.
Right.
It's really impressive.
It is. No, very stylish. Very nice. No.
Daughter uses it when she sends her thank you cards.
Listen, I'm impressed that you at 7, you've got her trained to do thank you cards because that stays with you for life.
I hope so, because I never did them. No one ever pressed it on me. David, yesterday's poll question, well, what was the biggest problem you have with college football today? Fortunately, of the 4 answers, one of them was everything is fine. That won. It did not come close to a majority vote, however. 36% of you said everything is fine. SEC dominance is the number one problem people have with college football out of the 3 choices given.
Interesting.
That received 31% of the votes. The transfer portal received 23% of the vote, and name, image, and likeness received 10% of the vote.
Well, along those lines, Mark, the ratings came in for the national championship. And 2021 doesn't count. COVID year, everything basically was down ratings-wise last year. We were in a bit of a funk. So 2021, we don't even include because those numbers are skewed, and in almost every instance, they're skewed negatively. Second lowest rated national championship game ever.
Is the Bama LSU game the lowest?
I don't know because the information that I have doesn't go back that far. But to give you an idea, how did Georgia, Alabama compare to LSU, Clemson? If we don't count last year, Alabama. And think about this. Alabama and Ohio State are the 2 biggest draws in the sport from a television standpoint. That's how down viewership was last year because there were 4 million less people who watched last year's Bama-Ohio State game than watched this year's Bama-Georgia game. I mean, that's how much TV viewing was affected during the COVID sports year. But, Mark, 3 million less people watch Georgia, Alabama than watch Joe Burrow blow out Clemson. Almost 3 million less people watched Alabama, Georgia than watched Clemson, Alabama in 2019. How about this, Mark? Almost 6 million less people watched this Alabama, Georgia game for the national championship than the last time they played for the national championship. Same 2 teams, 4 years apart. Almost 6 million less viewers. That's reflected in the answer to our poll question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It only tops last year, but the 05 game was the least watched prior to it, the USC-Oklahoma game, which did 21.4 million people.
That was BCS era. There were only 2 teams, and that was a complete and utter blowout. That sucker was over mid-second quarter. Done.
Yeah, it only topped the last year, which doesn't count, including the BCS series. It's the fourth lowest watched game. The game we just mentioned, the USC-Oklahoma game, the Miami-Nebraska game in 2002, and then last year, which really doesn't count. Now, while those numbers are down, it did top every night of the Tokyo Summer Games last year. It was the most watched football game of a 72-hour period that included 7 Week 18 NFL games. It did do more people than Chargers-Raiders, for what it's worth. When we speak of what a bad audience is, you have to understand it's still a ginormous audience.
Speaking of which, remember that Saturday doubleheader, Week 18, both games on ABC/ESPN? And we said, the NFL did Disney a solid. They gave them Mahomes and the Cowboys. Think about how great Sunday was. Think about the games that you watched that all had major implications and that were terrific. Yeah, the Cowboys blowout of the Eagles, highest rated game of the weekend. The Saturday night game, worst night of television of the week. Yeah, it was the Cowboys.
Funny.
Ratings gold.
By the way, it only did 1 million more people than Chiefs-Broncos. Saturday killed it.
Yeah.
Start to finish.
Yep. We said the league did them a solid. They gave them Mahomes and the Cowboys.
Think of what would have happened if the national semifinals might have been played on a Saturday instead of a Friday night New Year's Eve.
No. Stop yourself.
I mean, don't you just have these two reports in front of you when you sit down with everybody and just fire them across the room and say, why are we playing the Rose Bowl as an important game when it's not? Because the Rose Bowl's ratings were terrific.
Right. Well, sure. It had the best time slot. No, and Ohio State was in it. I mean, they are the biggest draw in the sport.
No. I know. It did 15 million people.
Right. But if you put Alabama-Cincinnati in that time slot, it would have done more.
Absolutely it would have.
But they can't even agree on that, Mark. I mean, remember, it's all part of the cliques now. And part of the whole Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC alliance is two of those three anyway are in stock and barrel there with the damn Rose Bowl.
I got to tell you, when you make this alliance and you're the ACC, you really thought you made a strong alliance when you started.
Right.
You went, hey, the Big Ten invited us to the table. We've got it going on. They know the Pac-12's on the way out. They're looking at us.
Right.
Big Ten ACC champs. We did this in hoop, guys. Hey, Big Ten guys, here we are. Who are you again? The ACC.
Keep it down over there.
Can you shut up? I got to talk to the Pac-12 about the Rose Bowl, okay?
Right.
What happened?
You know, when I look at the ACC in this alliance, I don't know if you thought this growing up in history. Okay, it was kind of like the Axis. It was Germany, it was Japan, and it was Italy.
Right.
And I mean, talk about a weak third, part of it there. I mean, Mussolini, Italy, what? Seriously? You're putting them on the same footing as, what are you talking about? You got to be kidding me. I mean, those two they're military powers and what have you. The Mussolini,
he just
Italy,
attacks his own people. I mean, there's not really much to there. He's just running around madman.
They're going to overthrow him in an hour and a half. What are you talking about? They're not conquering nothing. But yeah, okay, you want to bring him on board? Sure. We'll form an alliance with him. Whatever. That's kind of how I feel about that. If you're the ACC, I think they view you as like Mussolini in Italy back in the day. Yeah, no, great to have you here, really. Could you just keep it down? We'll give you the orders here in a bit.
I mean, no offense, when you're studying that stuff and the other side's rushed to the UK and the US, you look at it and go,
huh,
this doesn't look right either.
Yeah, I like their number 3 in singles more than ours. Top 2's kind of a toss-up, but boy, I like their number 3. That looks like a win. If this is a Ryder Cup, best of 3, I think they're up 1-0. I really do. Miller and Moulton. So that's our poll question. We have people, who are recommending, we probably should have done like, cassette or VHS, things
Same
along those
thing.
lines. Right. Things along those lines.
Still have a DVD player, David?
All right. Now, I don't use it and haven't.
That's obvious.
No, and haven't in years. But, we've got the TV set up in the living room and this, that, and the other thing. And I do believe at the bottom is a DVD player.
Is it right next to the VHS?
I am a little bummed. I do have old TV tapes from 15, 20 plus years ago. Like, I probably should transfer them over. When I anchored the news on the night of September 11th, that's probably the only thing I'd really like to save. I probably should get around to doing that.
Somewhere in a drawer, I have a reel of the 4-goal third period that the Nashville Knights had against.
There you go.
I believe it was the Greensboro Monarchs, but I'm not positive.
There you go. You got to transfer that thing over.
Somewhere that there's the Gordy Fronte overtime winner in there.
Honey, this is very important to me. No. I really support you. Yeah, we're going to transfer it over. It's a little costly. How much? $132. Honey, it was a great third period. All right, really. All right.
Wonder if there's a reel in this building somewhere.
Our daughter will want to hear it someday. I'm sure of it.
Not a chance.
Miller and Moulton. You want to hear Dave Hyde next on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah.
You were anchoring the news on 9/11.
I'm sorry, what?
You were live, or the 9/11 thing you just said.
Yeah, I did the local news the night of 9/11.
Like the local news here.
ABC 7.
Wow.
And you did about 5 hours on this station that day, didn't you?
Commercial free. Tom Abraham was on the air. It was his birthday. He did the mornings. He did 7 to 10. He ended up doing 7 to noon. I came in at noon, did noon to 6. Commercial free.
I was about to say there probably wasn't a single commercial that
No,
day.
Couldn't.
No, you couldn't run a
Hell no.
commercial.
Of course not.
What did you do when you needed a bathroom break? I mean, you run an ID?
Well,
Did
we
you have some PSAs,
I
or-
forget. God, and the producer died like a year later. A brain aneurysm, sitting in his chair on Christmas Eve. He used to do Blades games for you.
Not Joey C.
Might have been.
Little guy?
No, well, wasn't that big. He was a little older than me. Dark hair.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. No, it wasn't Joey C.
But anyway, there were press conferences around the country. And so like, if Jeb Bush, who governor of Florida at the time, he had a presser, we just carried it. Anything that was, nothing came out of the White House, remember, until the evening. And we had people call in, people just needed to talk. They needed to vent. There was a lot of things obviously about that day, but so you get out at 6:00 and you've been in the building, and where we were was down the hall. There's no windows, and
There's no one on the roads.
it was eerily silent, and it was still light out because it was September. So you walked out the door at like 6:03, and I live 10 miles straight up 41 north. And it took about 6 miles before I saw a car on 41 at 6 o'clock. That was the thing that driving home.
What year was the earthquake World Series?
89.
I was in college. I watched that in
Boy, Hops, you were, and I'm not making light of this either, that for you, that had to be like the hostages. They put a video together for the Iranian hostages of all the stuff that they had missed during their 400 plus days in captivity. And I'm guessing for you, not seeing, September 11th footage in a way that had to be the same.
My dad was actually flying when it happened.
Where did they bring him down?
Atlanta. They drove home.
my mom said she went to that play recently that they did at BB Man about is it Newfoundland or Nova Scotia where they landed all the planes?
Yes.
That was a play. My mom said it was terrific.
Dave Hyde is on hold.
Awesome.
Oh, John Lester's retiring. Finally.
You know what? He finished pretty strong, though, last year after didn't the Cardinals acquire him at the deadline?
Yeah, they did.
Yep, he got number 200.
That's good. I like that he was in that. Remember that the Derek Jeter commercial where everyone tipped the cap?
Uh-huh.
I like that he was in that commercial wearing a Red Sox uniform, like on the mound. "15 seconds."
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Seth Everett will join us at the top of the hour. We'll head to New York in an hour to talk the Giants and Joe Judge with Ryan Dunleavy. We'll head to Chicago at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, talk with Patrick Finley, and then we'll talk to Ryan Kerley, who's gotten some sleep, hopefully, after the Dogs won their first national title in over 40 years. Dave Hyde's kind enough to join us once again. Outstanding columnist for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Hyde Sports. Dave Hyde Sports. Dave, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time once again. How are you?
Doing well. How's everything there?
Well,
it sounds like you guys got the market cornered on all the openings in the NFL right now. Your guess.
Yes, but we never thought we'd be talking to you. What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Yeah, I think that was a shocker to most of us. I wrote a column after Sunday's game saying, "Okay, Steve Ross's decision now. What's he want to do? Does he want to fire, keep, change, whatever?" And I was a little surprised if they were going to fire somebody, I thought it'd be the general manager, Chris Greer, and if he goes, then I thought, there's a chance the coach goes, they just clean house. But I'm a little surprised that it was Flores alone.
As were we, and it certainly seems, Dave, that a lot of this is that, like the report card that I would get in kindergarten that says doesn't work and play well with others seems to be the biggest problem Flores had. He had back-to-back winning seasons. To me, working and playing well with others should be on the others if you have back-to-back winning seasons, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there are lines with it. I don't, the communication and collaboration idea that he was fired for. Look, if you're the owner, it should be about winning. Okay, does this make you a better team? Does a better organization? Are you and that's the surprising part to me. Make it about football. If you want to fire him for his lack of building an offensive staff and that, it was well known Brian Flores doesn't get along with people. I mean, he's 4 days into his first practice, he fired his offensive line coach. Okay, there's Minka Fitzpatrick. He didn't get along with him and traded an all-pro safety to Pittsburgh. So he has issues in that regard. Were they fireable issues? That's the thing to me that is a little bit when you look, his teams were playing hard for him. You get a first-time coach. There's a learning curve there, and the question is going into year 4, would they have been better with him? And again, if they were going to fire somebody, I thought it'd be the general manager, because the quarterback decision is really the thing that's setting back this franchise.
Dave, I'm curious about the premise, even. If you go back to your first answer, in which you said you wrote a column after Sunday saying, well, what direction is he going to go? I got to be honest. I didn't think that there was any other direction that they were going to go except keep moving forward. I mean, that's how surprising this is to me. And it seems as if the fan base, at least as best we can tell, they're really honked off by this. Do you think this has caught the Dolphins and Stephen Ross by surprise, just how much people are questioning what they're doing?
No, I think they knew they were making a public relations, a mess. And you do something like that, and people are going to say, "Whoa, wait a second! They were tanking the first season." Here's the thing: if they want communication and collaboration, the issue was before they hired Flores. They knew they were getting who they were getting. I mean, a Bill Belichick, not just the church of Belichick for 15 years from his young coach. So that's his role model. If you don't want that type of guy, don't hire him. What's more, the whole blueprint at that time was the tank. They hate that word tanking, then you can come up with something else that sounded that. But that was the concept. They traded people overboard. They got draft picks. They were going to find their franchise quarterback by getting to the top of the draft. And instead, they bring in a guy who refused to tank. The coach, Flores, refused to tank. And so right off the bat, how could they hire a guy raised by Belichick, and he's got rough edges if he's coming out of that, and they didn't talk to him about tanking, or he didn't agree to it? And so they want to talk communication. It's on their side of hiring the wrong guy. So, I go down to Steve Ross, who he's hired, GM, coaches. He hasn't got a right in 13. As a Dolphin, somebody writes about him and prefers to write about excellence rather than mediocrity or worse. I hope he gets it right this time.
Well, and Dave, there's not much reason to think that he will. I mean, Dave Wannstedt was the last head coach hired by the Dolphins who had coaching experience. And I used to not like the retread coaches. I used to think that was the bad move. But at some point, hiring another assistant seems to be the same method that has not worked for the entire time that Stephen Ross has owned this team. And it looks as if when they fired Brian Flores, there was a lot of, okay, they've already got someone in waiting. This is just the same old plan, Dave. It looks like they're doing this all over again.
Yeah, we're on some level back to square one, especially if you consider the defense he's put together was his defense. It was he handpicked players to play a defense he likes, and that's the New England defense. And look, good players are good players. I get that, but some are system players, and and so the question will be what who they bring in here, and what does he want to do, and look, for instance, systems. Zach Thomas and John Offerdahl both were linebackers, great linemen in NFL, but they were both undersized. Zach played in a 4-3 defense behind two huge defensive tackles, and had a great career, going to the Hall of Fame. John Offerdahl played in a 3-4 defense behind, a nose guard, and took on 300-pound guards every play, and had a shortened career to injury. So you got to know what players you have. You got to know what system you're going to run. And Brian Flores had that up and running with the defense. And now you're going to bring in another guy, and we'll see how that all fits with the players he has here.
Talking with Dave Hyde, outstanding columnist for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Hyde Sports. That's Dave Hyde Sports. What is also surprising to us, Dave, is we figured when Flores was let go, well, then obviously they've got a plan. I mean, whether it was going to be Jim Harbaugh, which we thought it was, or somebody else, Jim Caldwell, Peterson. I mean, clearly they know exactly what they want here. They're not going to waste a lot of time. 48, 72 hours, this sucker's going to be done. And then the first thing we hear is that, well, they want to talk to Dan Quinn and Brian Daboll. And it's like, well, they're starting from scratch like everybody else. I mean, isn't that also surprising here? I mean, he had to make this decision. Once they lost to Tennessee and they weren't going to the playoffs, that Ross said, well, okay, now I can fire him. So, I mean, he knew for a week what he was doing.
Well, yeah, but also there's NFL protocol. They can't hire somebody that quickly and pretend they're following the Rooney Rule. So, there's timeline's interesting here because I keep hearing Harbaugh, even though Ross shot it down for the most part in his press conference, and somebody close to Ross told me, no, it's not going to happen. So, but I keep hearing that. So until, I don't know what to say about that rumor. Other than they are going to have, they're going to have, I'm not going to Alabama questions like Nick Saban if they hire him. But on some level, they have to go through the procedure of hiring right. And I'll be honest, I don't think they had somebody in mind that if it's not Harbaugh, if they want to get a quarterback to a coach to help their current quarterback, they get Brian Daboll, who was his coach at Alabama for a year. If they want to fix the offensive line, get Mike Munchak, who is now free from Denver. If you want to help, get your defense, make sure that's set up, you get, there's like 3 or 4 coordinators. So I'm curious which way they go. I agree with you. Probably would prefer a veteran, somebody who's had a head coaching try and failed for some reason. But, until you've been in those interview rooms and know these coaches, and none of us do, it's hard to really say who they should get.
Dave, appreciate your time and your insight. Be safe, be well. Hopefully we can talk again.
Yep, thanks.
Dave Hyde, columnist for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Hyde Sports. That's Dave Hyde, Hyde Sports. And he sent a tweet out, Mark, right before he did our interview, in which he said, if you're prioritizing the quarterback, it's Brian Daboll. You want to fix the O-line, Mike Munchak. You want to replenish the defense, Dan Quinn, Todd Bowles, Vance Joseph. You want to infuriate the fan base, fill in the blank.
Well, I think every name on that list that's not Dan Quinn will infuriate the fan base.
Remember, Bowles was interim coach for the Dolphins once before.
Okay. I'm just saying, if they hire another assistant, lifer assistant, interim head coach guy, the fan base will be infuriated. In fact, I think they're infuriated if it's anybody not named Harbaugh. I don't even care if it's Quinn or it's Caldwell or whatever the case may be. They seem to like this guy. They thought he was doing a good job. We thought he was doing a good job.
And our bias is we have been difficult to deal with in our careers. And we have been in situations where we have created the friction, where others around us have created the friction. And we have always felt that we can work through it.
And it's a dadgum good point, David, because as we've been bounced around, we've been able to come back and basically prove ourselves right over and over again, despite being difficult to get along with from time to time.
Right. Right. I mean, and we would look at our bosses and go, listen, we know we're a handful. We do a pretty good show.
Right.
All right. The
And
results are pretty good.
Flores back-to-back winning records.
Yeah,
I know I'm a
I mean,
blankety blank, but I
yeah.
did just win 9 games with that
Right.
offensive line that he drafted.
Right. And so it's another reason why Miller and Moulton are on the side of Flores here. All right. We can look at him and go, yeah, we're more like you than the GM.
And I think the other thing is that we have thick enough skin to work with people that we don't necessarily get along with, but we know that they're good.
Right.
We can look at one another and go, I don't know if I necessarily like you all that much, but I know you're good at what you do and you're going to make me better at what I do.
Right.
So we're going to move forward with this.
But there are a lot of people in this world who do not like conflict.
And more and more every day.
Yes. And will avoid people and or get rid of people because there is conflict. And yes, in an ideal world, there would not be conflict. There would not be creative differences, as they say. But I think this is a staggering mistake by Ross. Staggering. And that, I'm sorry, you be a leader.
You're
Sit them
jeopardizing the rest of the
down.
decade, David.
Yes.
You really and truly are here.
And in your case, you're like 81 years old. I mean, you've just, unless you absolutely get this right, I mean, you have probably ruined your franchise for the rest of your life. I mean, that's how big of a decision he just made here. I mean, are you sure about this? Brian Flores was that big of a blankety blank?
That you're blowing this all up.
Are you sure? And yeah, I mean, the offensive side of the ball was not working. You know, we felt Tua and some others were doing the best they could with what they had. They clearly needed a new offensive line coach. Either that or a whole new line. Either the GM picked good players and they weren't being put in the right system and coached up, or he picked bad players and they got to go get new ones. Man.
And I thought Dave Hyde said it perfectly throughout the interview. They knew going in what they were getting with Brian Flores. They knew they were getting someone that was rough around the edges and not that easy to deal with.
You know, Mongo says, come on, David, the coach lost 7 games in a row this year. He also won 7 games in a row. I mean,
They did win more games than they lost.
They just had back-to-back winning seasons.
Ross had never done that since he'd been the owner of the team.
I mean, you know, it's a Dolphins curve here that we're judging it on, but you know, you're the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. You have back-to-back winning seasons. That's pretty good. Last time that happened, you know, that kid is now in high school. That's how long ago it was. But Mike Munchak is an offensive line coach. I do like that.
Seth Everett coming up on the other side, our great 8, as we call it, along with Ryan Dunleavy. He covers the Giants. Talk to him about Joe Judge, still Patrick Finley, and Ryan Kerley ahead on Miller and Moulton. Thank you so much for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
He is in there playing basketball with a can.
Are you winning?
Sorry, I had to hit the trash can. Or the
Did you
invisible-
hit it?
Yeah. Are you
It
winning?
wasn't a swish.
Are you winning,
No, it
or
was-
is,
it was
or is
off
the
the
can
rim.
kicking your butt?
No, it was rim. I had to give my imaginary defender a little jab. Something. Step jab.
Hi, Seth.
Hi.
Morning.
I got a special cool new shirt that only people who saw Spider-Man will understand.
Oh, let me see.
Great.
Wait, we lost him.
Oh, hold on.
Hey, wait, what? Hold on, Seth. Hold on. Can you see him or no?
What?
I'm here.
No. Philly was like going. You stood up to show your shirt, and Philly like was going to leave the room.
No, it was. I saw it. Murdoch.
I'm a really good lawyer.
Nice.
Okay.
By the way, apparently I didn't know this until recently because it surfaced, but apparently he's in Into the Spider-Verse as well. Like he's like hidden in the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
I think it's like an Easter egg or something like that.
Cool. It's a Spider-Man morning.
Beth, have you seen any of the gameplay of the PlayStation 5 Spider-Man game?
No.
Just bought that and the Miles Morales game for $40 because it was on sale.
Nice.
I finished the story of it yesterday. It was really good.
That's cool. I only do sports games. I do
I just-
NHL and FIFA.
I got to get your NHL so I can play you.
Yeah, baby.
You're Xbox. Can we play Xbox versus PS4 or no?
I don't think it's
I
on the platform.
Okay.
There are games that are, but I don't think that one is.
Gotcha.
Oh,
NHL is fun.
I was playing last night.
You were?
I was playing yesterday. I bought my daughter. She
Uh-huh.
likes racing. She loves racing things on her tablet and stuff. So I bought her.
F1?
No. I actually looked because I don't do video the way I used to.
pole position.
No, it's Crash something. It's more kid friendly.
Crash Bandicoot?
It was Oh God.
Fucking crash. Big splash. Big Rex.
Crash Team Racing.
Oh yeah, that's Crash Bandicoot.
It's fun.
That's cool.
You know, she and I are going nonstop at it. It cracks me up.
That's cool. I watch hockey with my daughter when my team plays.
Yeah, which apparently is optional.
Yeah, God dang. What the hell? How many more years do you think my 13-year-old is going to want to sit with her dad to watch hockey?
About 3 more days.
These are golden times.
Yep.
Seth, you're right.
I will say my daughter wanted to do it until she went to college.
Well,
I was shocked.
I
Well,
hope.
hockey or play hockey?
No, just hang out with dad.
And we watch the Devils games, and they don't play, so
We're coming back.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
And our buddy Seth Everett at 1.5 minutes past the hour of 8. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. How are you, Seth?
good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for being flexible again.
No problem. Is that your dog in the background?
Yes, it is. He was quiet for the entire morning until right as your intro started.
I know.
It was like you had a mysterious dog call in your intro.
We've done that, Seth, on purpose. We put a whistle in that intro that no one can hear but animals to try to drive, our listeners crazy.
That's why you say Florida Sports Network so goddamn often.
Not like we're trying to brand a new company or anything, Seth.
Seth, I think the reason we say Florida Sports Network is we're both still in shock that we're syndicated. I think that's what we keep saying it, looking at one another like, is this thing really happening?
Especially when David gives that double. Because if you ever notice, the second one is slow, it's methodical.
Right.
Yeah.
It's emphasizing it. I do that figuring I'm giving you enough time to hit the button and go to alternative programming.
That and the fact
hit
he
the
doesn't have a
post.
phone number for a call-in yet, Seth.
Yes.
That's really the biggest. That's the regroup that David's had for years. Whenever I say something that's really off color and really bothers him, he could just give the phone number out. He doesn't have a phone number right now, Seth, and it kills him.
But the target demo is probably people who don't have buttons on their car. They still have the dial to tune it in.
What are you trying to say about my automobile?
Just joking.
Hey,
automobile.
You got to answer our poll question.
Oh yeah.
It's a simple one. So what have you used most recently? A check or a stamp?
Oh, a stamp.
Do you recall the last time you written a check?
Oh yeah. It was like 3 days ago.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know if I've written one this decade.
Oh no. It's a guy who mows our lawn. We write him a check, and
You pay him by check? And I write checks, but you pay him by check?
that's his request. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
He writes a check.
I would think you'd want good hard cash. You're still allowed to pay with cash, aren't you?
I use cash a lot, and every place is like the coins. We have no coins. What are we gonna do? But I use cash. I try to lay off these credit cards.
I didn't say anything.
No
but
paper trail.
I was in line at the grocery store last week, and there was a younger, very attractive 20-something in front of me. And she's getting her stuff, and I'm behind her getting my stuff. And all of a sudden, she pulls out a 20. And she went from like an 8.5, 9 to a 14 when she paid with cash. And I happen to get up pretty quickly, and I'm walking, and I'm not following her, but we were going the same direction. Then she gets in her car, and it's got Grateful Dead stickers on the back. And I'm like, who is this person? You're paying cash, and you're a deadhead. What's going? There's hope in this world, David.
In her 20s, too.
Right?
Although the Apple Pay is pretty awesome. Like to go to Costco and you don't need the card anymore. You can just literally just walk right in, flash the phone. That's in and out. That's tremendous.
I literally forgot my wallet the other day going somewhere. I'm like, oh, do you guys have Apple Pay? Yes, you do. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what else is pretty awesome? All right. And yes, I'm going here right now. The baseball players and owners are going to talk tomorrow. That's right. They're actually going to look one another in the eye and talk. 6 weeks. They haven't spoken to one another. How about that? What else do they have to do?
Okay. That's great. Wake me. Wake me when it's above 40 degrees.
Hey, it's a big deal to those of us on the West Coast. We got this multi-million-dollar juggernaut called spring training. We'd really like it to happen. Hotel rooms get filled. Restaurants get filled. All right. Ka-ching, ka-ching, cash, Apple Pay. It all happens.
Apple Pay. You think the CBA can get negotiated by Apple Pay?
If there's enough money in it, yes.
Seth, I mean, I will say, you heard David say that. That should be someone that likes baseball should hear that, and it should at least percolate a little bit of a smile. And you were very matter of fact, as you've been, Seth, for 2 years. You're like, whatever.
Yeah, wake me when they make real progress.
What would be real progress to you, Seth? Because they got to start somewhere. There's got to be some negotiation. So tell us what you would quantify as real progress.
Well, just something that is remotely geared towards a settlement and a plan. This is these two sides. It's very different than the negotiations that I covered in the early 2000s. You know, the almost strike of 2002. I was a little young for the 94 strike. I was an intern. But in 2002, they despised each other. They don't hate each other. Tony Clark, Rob Manfred, they don't have issues with each other. They understand each other's positions very, very well. What the union is doing, and I'm traditionally a union person, and they're the only people that talk to me these days. The union wants to keep the status quo as much as they can. And the league is trying to notice that all the positions are changed. The role of the starting pitcher is different. The defensive metrics are different. The stolen base different. Things are different. And thus, the payroll incentives should be different as well. And the union doesn't want to budge on that. The thing that they're interested that interests me is Major League Baseball seems to want to put a fork in the regional sports network. They want to try to bypass the regional sports network and get it so that if you live in Miami, you can watch the Marlins online as opposed to only being able to do it with cable. There's a revenue stream from that. And the union wants a piece of it. So they're saying, wait a second, you want all the new media, but you also want the old media and or the old ways. And which is it? And that's what this argument is about. It's not a we don't trust you or salary cap or bust. It's not the contentiousness that it used to be. And when I talk to people in the media that cover this on a day in, day out basis, and I have turned down 3 separate baseball podcasts because I can't do it. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard right now. But the idea that they're covering this, their editors are telling them, do not write about this because it's putting people to sleep. And in this clickbait world where we live for storylines, Eric Chavez was a big story because they said anything that's not labor. So like I've said, wake me when there's real progress. It's not compelling. It's not gripping. And yes, I root for markets that have spring training, but that's pretty much it.
Well, but Seth, here's what interests me. There may not be, you believe, the angst, if not hatred, that there has been in the past. But the fact is that the players won for 30 years at the negotiating table. 70s, 80s, and 90s, the players kept winning. Beginning in the 2000s, the owners have started to win. And it's actually something that's right there in black and white. Baseball salaries are going down. All right. In none of the major sports are salaries going down. They're going down in baseball while revenues are going up. So they may not hate each other, but there is a staggering divide. Right. Players are looking at the owners going, are you kidding me? There's a fair deal to be made. You keep wanting to roll it back more, which begs the question, which side is going to give in? Because they are very far apart.
But we talked about this. I mean, we've talked about this longer than COVID. I mean, we talked about this in 2018, 2019. Yep. They are philosophically different. And I have said all along, I've often said, I saw two crises facing this sport. It's the 2021 negotiation and the 30-year effect of where the sport is in 30 years. The two aspects of this, it's not remotely close. The fact that they are talking is literally it didn't even move my needle. It didn't do anything. Let's see what happens, because first both sides leak everything. So the minute there's real progress, we'll know. And then you can start to have what you said, like the glimmer of hope. But just them sitting down to talk is not hope.
Well, and I think part of the reason it's little stupid things that they agree on that won't agree on. They both agree they want a DH. They can't agree that they want a DH. They both.
Well, that's just because they're stupid, but
that's part of it, Seth. Isn't the stupidity?
But that's not going to hold up the deal. Like, if they can figure out this money thing, they'll figure out all that stuff, and you'll get 17 rounds of playoffs, which is exactly what ESPN wants, by the way. ESPN wants extra playoffs, less games. Remember, the ESPN contract is for more money to air less games. Their midweek baseball game package is out, and they're doing it because they're saying nobody's watching it. That's pretty weak. If in the summer, think about this, if in the summer ESPN is choosing not to air your games.
Well, the sport ceased to be a national sport right now. It's a regional sport in about 28 or 30 places. And so that's why they're a national network. And they'll figure out something else to run, which is pretty sad. That is.
Well, now that NBC Sports Network's out, maybe the bull riding can go on ESPN.
It's a hell of a lot cheaper to put on TV, and the numbers of people watching it aren't going to be that far apart, Seth. I mean, it's not that people don't care.
White.
It's not that people don't care about baseball, Seth, and you know this. People don't care about inconsequential baseball on a national basis. We care every night about our team. We don't care about somebody else's team in July. We just don't.
Yeah, I hear you.
Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, Tech Stream. Those are your three podcasts. Anything interesting?
They're good. Yeah, they're really good.
If you do say so yourself.
They're on fire right now. Former president of Fox Sports, Ed Gorin, this week on Sports with Friends.
Wow.
Talked about hiring John Madden. He talked about the decision to have the glowing puck. Oh, the conversation just about the glowing puck is worth the download right there. And then, and I don't care if you're right, left, center, what political stance you're in, he tells a fantastic Rupert Murdoch story that is hysterical. Ed Gorin on one of the best episodes of Sports with Friends we've had in weeks. Even though Tom Rinaldi was amazing last week, this podcast is on fire. Putting it together was a breeze. Ed Gorin is a fantastic storyteller, and he was there. He was the first American hired by Fox by Murdoch to start Fox Sports. He was there from the very, very beginning, and he saw all the incarnations. We do talk to him about streaming and, what his stance is on streaming and how these broadcasts are going. And he had some really, really insightful stuff on that. It's a fantastic podcast. I don't even remember the other two.
All right. There you go. They're called Tech Stream. And
Tech Stream is a CES, and it's an interview with one of the head executives of the company called Meta, which is the artist formerly known as Facebook. And we talk about, is Instagram harmful to kids? That's another great interview. And then for Hall of Justice, it's a guy by the name of Todd Helbing, who is the showrunner of the new CW show Superman and Lois, which had their season premiere last night. And he is coming on tonight. That is a fantastic show and a very, very underrated. I know the CW shows get maligned because they've gotten kind of soft. This one is not soft. It's a great show, Superman and Lois.
Seth, I was thinking about reaching out to you because I thought that your Hall of Justice this week should have been based on Batman, because Batman debuted today, 56 years ago on ABC.
Wow. Oh, the Batman TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, Batman's over 85 years. I was like, no, yeah, the Batman TV. I love the Batman TV show. I've seen every episode of the Batman TV show. I saw it in reruns when I was a kid, and I bought the Blu-ray when it came out.
He's Seth Everett. Follow him on Twitter at Seth_Everett, Sports with Friends, Hall of Justice, and Tech Stream. Hope the family is safe and healthy and well, because that has not always been the case in recent weeks.
Yeah. Everybody's good.
Good. And we'll talk to you next week.
Oh, by the way, it's 14 degrees right now.
Okay.
It's not here.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll just go with that.
You know, I have to admit, I find it interesting. Usually people who live in Florida have their friends yell at them when we bring up the weather. Okay.
It's cold today here too, Seth.
No.
But I've got socks on. I've got shoes on. I mean, I'm still wearing shorts, but I mean, it's a full-on sock advisory, Seth.
You could be the president at Del Boca Vista anytime.
I'm running for it.
I mean, on the
you
West
think
Coast of
I've never
Florida,
driven in a Cadillac before? I've driven in a Cadillac hundreds of times.
Seth Everett here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. The Florida Sports Network. Seth, that's the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
A question, if anybody can recall the opening kickoff of the college football championship. Yes, it's a new rule. All right. You can fair catch it at any point on the field. And if it's above the 25, it can be start there. But if it's in between the goal line and the 25, you take it out to the 25.
Did you answer his question?
I believe that's a couple years old, that rule change.
Yeah. Wow. Look at that.
What in the wide world of sports is going on?
Follow.
Yes.
Follow us to freedom.
Subscribe to us. Follow us. Mark and I have a bet on the number of followers. He wants you guys to follow. Me? Take your time. After July 4th.
I always get a kick out of this. Oh, I'm not seeing us on. We're certainly not on the front on the video on the
app.
Yeah, holy cow! I still haven't seen us on the app.
The other question I have is, why is Vandy's court so dang huge? Well, also it's weird because the benches are below the surface of the court. So it's a weird visual.
There we are.
So
Hey, look at that. No, I know. On the mobile, though, on the sports, we were way down, Adam. At least on mine, there's about 40 of them ahead of us. Because it just goes one at a time and scrolls. Yeah, I kind of recognize the face, David. Rosafort, kind of.
$30 seconds.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. That would be the Florida Sports Network. Little bit of breaking news. John Lester retired. He had just turned 38. And when I mean just turned 38, I mean like last Friday. And 16 years in the majors, Mark. Gut feeling about John Lester, because we've already had the question asked. Hall of Famer?
Boy, he's going to be really close.
200 wins on the money. 200.
And to me, 250 is the new 300, like the automatic. So I don't think 200's anywhere near an automatic, even in today's world.
Great winning percentage because he only had 117 losses. So his winning percentage is over 630. Never won 20 games. However, won 15 or more games, I think like 8 times. Led the league in wins once. That in 2018. He was a 5-time All-Star. 3 World Series championships. The 2 in Boston, and then the 1 in Chicago. I mean, of his 3, 2 of them are, well, he wasn't there for the 04. So he was there for 2007 and 2013. Those were his Red Sox World Series titles. He overcame cancer, but he helped the Cubs. Signed with the Cubs and went 19-5 the year that they finally got it done. 19-5 with a 2.44 ERA.
You're the baseball guy of the two of us. I think he walks right up. I don't know if he goes in.
Yeah, do not think he's a Hall of Famer. But I don't think Andy Pettit's a Hall of Famer. I mean, Andy Pettit's average start was 3 earned runs given up in 6 1/3 innings. I'm sorry. That's not a Hall of Fame pitcher. It's not. And I know he's got the most postseason wins. Yeah. I mean, no offense. When the other guys were pitching, hell, before 1969, they went straight to the World Series. They didn't even have an LCS. I mean,
he was fortunate that he played for a ton of playoff teams, played a lot of rounds.
Yeah.
On teams that could just demolish the baseball as well.
Yeah, I mean, he'd go out there, go with 3 runs in 7 innings to get a win. You know, there's a long time in baseball history you gave it 3 runs in 7 innings in the playoffs. You lost. So, no, I don't think Andy Pettit's Hall of Famer. Plus, for those of you that are into this sort of thing, he did admit that he cheated.
Lester or Pettit? Is Pettit more qualified? I'm just asking. If you were to pick between the two, I'm not saying you're putting either of them in. Who's more qualified in your estimation to go to the Hall of Fame?
Pettit, because he's got a lot more wins. I mean, 200's a low win total for a starting pitcher. Now, there are pitchers with Koufax only had 160.
And I'm not worried about previous generations. I think you're going to find, David, that 200 in this world is going to be a pretty good number.
And I think your point of 250s and new 300, so does that make 200 about 250 or 260 back in the day?
It's certainly more like 225 to 240, if you know what I mean, in comparison to those guys. Hey, I don't think he is. Neither of us do, but I do think it's a little closer than what you're saying.
This is how different you want to talk. I mean, we all know that baseball is radically different, but the talk about how different it is being a starting pitcher. Mark, John Lester started over 450 games.
Okay. All right. Hold on. It's going to be under 10.
You don't even know what I'm asking.
Complete games. I know exactly what you're asking, David.
Okay.
It's under 10.
It's not.
It's not. Okay. That's pretty good. Is it under 20?
Yes.
I was going to guess 8.
It's almost double that. 15.
Oh, okay.
So 15 out of 450, once out of every 30 starts, basically one a year.
Right.
He'd give you a complete game a year. This is,
it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Thank you, Robin Williams.
There you go. I'm glad you were with me.
Here's the better one. Shutouts. Well, you got to remember, he only had 15 complete games.
Chances.
So how many of the 15? Close 4.
Okay.
Right.
Well, you got to figure every time there was a complete game, it had to be a shot at a no-hitter or a shutout.
So his average season, if you will, 15-9, 3.66 earned run average, 34 starts, 1 complete game.
That's spending most of his years on the Red Sox also.
Well, he spent 9 of his 16 with the Red Sox, 6 with the Cubs. His last year was split between he had a few months there with the A's.
So the Cubs and the Red Sox, not really starting pitcher ballparks.
Believe it or not, the Red Sox ballpark is a lot more pitcher friendly than people think. In fact, that was the major stumbling block when the Red Sox pursued Schilling. Theo and company, they fly to Arizona and they sit down with him, and he's like, I am not pitching in that bandbox. And they said, can we show you some numbers? And they had all the analytics there for him. And they said, with the way you pitch, trust me. All right. This will be a just fine ballpark for you. And it was the last thing that Schilling needed because he wanted to make sure he wasn't going to a bandbox.
Is it center field that is?
Well, first off, the wall can be to your advantage.
The wall can be to your advantage. What I would say, it's not a ballpark conducive to a lot of shutouts.
No. But also, first off, center field is 420 feet and the wall's 30 feet high. I mean, to hit one out the straightaway center might be the biggest poke in the game.
And it's got that cut, too, that Jackie Bradley Jr. made that crazy.
And, it's about 385 to the short wall bullpen in right center. I mean, that's a fairly big ballpark in spots. And, we've seen, heck, the Yankees with their hitters have hit just crushed balls to left field that are singles off the wall. That would have been home runs by 50 feet at Yankee Stadium. So, but he did the benefit, though. He pitched for the Red Sox and Cubs.
Right.
In the 21st century. There was a time pitching for the Red Sox and Cubs might not have worked to your advantage. In the 21st century, it very much works to your advantage. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
I don't either.
And I think that you can have players in which both Red Sox Nation, if you will, and Cubs Nation can both hold him in very high regard. You know, there's a local TV anchor in the Fort Myers market who follows us on Twitter. He is a diehard Cubs fan. All right. He genuflects at the mention of John Lester.
And he should.
In terms of his significance of coming over, when he came over, right when our young guys were about ready to start winning. 2015 was his first year. They go to the LCS. 2016, they win the whole thing. And in fact, I believe he argues that John Lester, probably the biggest free agent pickup in the history of the franchise.
Doesn't make him a Hall of Famer.
No. And I don't know if it's someone that, you honor necessarily. I don't know what the Cubs do besides retire a couple of guys' numbers. I don't know.
And I don't even know if he's worthy to have his number retired as a Cub.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think so,
and I don't think, quite frankly, he's a Hall of Famer, but I do think he's one of those guys who never pays for anything again.
Correct.
When he comes to the Windy City, and you all just go, oh my goodness, John Lester, man, you had to see him. He was big.
One of the best non-Hall of Fame pitchers of this generation.
Well, yes, absolutely. And there will be very few Hall of Fame pitchers from his generation. The one guy I think's got a real shot is CC Sabathia. Yeah. CC's numbers, because I think CC's over 250. So as Mark pointed out, if 250 is the new 300, I think CC met that bar.
And again, another pitcher who, for the majority of his career, played in that division.
Well, was a Yankee.
Well, and before that took the Indians to within a game of the World Series.
What he did in Milwaukee with the Brewers
yes.
is worthy, is Hall of Fame worthy just in and of itself. They handed him the ball every third day for 3 months and said, take us to the postseason. And he said, okay.
Yep. And he was a free agent to be, and he put the whole big money long-term deal at risk to try to help pitch the small market Brewers into the playoffs for the first time in nearly 30 years, and he did. And as Mark mentioned, down the stretch, CC pitched on 3 days rest for 5 weeks.
Have you seen how thin he is now?
Yeah, I know.
It's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, well, he stopped drinking.
Get off the sauce.
Yeah.
Amazing what that does.
Yep.
One day I may find out myself.
May. Miller and Moulton will head to New York. Ryan Dunleavy covers the Giants. They're one of 7 teams who need a new head coach. They're one of 3 who also need a new general manager. Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post next. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I forgot who it was in the Twitch chat. It told me to listen to Dan Mason, but I did. Pretty good. So if you want to hear what a modern day Michael Jackson album looks like, sounds like, listen to Dawn FM by The Weeknd. It'll blast you right back into the 80s. Was Adam, yeah.
Adam, Bill O'Brien won 2 division titles before Deshaun Watson. Bill O'Brien really can coach. Bill O'Brien, the GM, was terrible. You can't let Bill O'Brien be anywhere near personnel decisions. But Bill O'Brien really can coach. And I think they won 4 division titles in 5 years. In your division, by the way.
Oh, that's right. Lester did that whole thing where you could go to a bunch of different bars and mention his name, and he had tabs open. That is right. You hope the best for me. Thank you, Dandy. I hope the best for me, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not necessarily scared of Flurona.
Ryan Dunleavy is on hold.
Great.
With the Gigantes. Have the Giants ever had red uniforms?
Yes.
Wow. I gotta see what that looks like. Let me look that up. Oh yeah. It rings a bell. 15 seconds.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes before the hour. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, Florida Sports Network. Patrick Finley to join us from Chicago after the top of the hour. They're looking for a new head coach and general manager there. Ryan Dunleavy joins us from the New York metropolitan area covering the NFL for the New York Post. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at RY Dunleavy, RY Dunleavy. Ryan, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time. How are you?
Good, fellas. How are you?
Well, we're doing okay. You sent out a tweet, I think, just a few minutes ago, in which you said 3 weeks ago, the odds that Judge would lose his job 0 to 10%. Even a week ago, no better than like 40%. But at the end of the day, I mean, you couldn't pin him with a new GM, could you?
I thought they could. I really did. I thought the way they could have gone was they could have said to the new GM, look, it's year 0 for you. We'll give you an extra. We usually give 4 years on our GM contracts. We'll give 5. We usually give 5. We'll give 6. It's year 0 for you. Get your feet on the ground. This place has become toxic. Figure out the front office, make all the scouting changes you need and all the front office and all the ops guys and get your house in order. And while you do that for 9 months, Joe Judge and Daniel Jones, the quarterback, are on a do or die year. Okay. And there are no excuses for them. We're not going to pick up Daniel Jones's 5th-year option. So it's basically a walk year for Judge and a walk year for Jones. And if they hit the lottery, great. And if not, when there's a better quarterback draft class in 2023, you'll have the draft pick to pick the quarterback. You'll pick your new head coach, and you'll all be aligned. It'll be technically year 1 for you as a GM. You'll have your head coach. You'll have your quarterback. It'll all be aligned. It's a tough pill for Giants fans to swallow because there's a wasted decade, and you're basically asking them to possibly waste another whole year. But truth be told is the Giants aren't going to be very good no matter what happens next year. So, now you're going to saddle a new coach, whoever it is, with probably a 5-12 worthy team. And that's going to be his first year rather than Joe's last year.
Do you have any thought as to, was it this 11-minute presser? When did this start going downhill at a pace that Judge was done in your estimation, Ryan?
I'll give you 3 examples. I thought it was 0% before Daniel Jones got hurt. Daniel Jones got hurt. That was the first one. That was the first key moment in the 6-week downfall. Then 2 weeks ago was the 11-minute presser, where I liked it. I'm so tired of coaches saying, I'll work here till my key card stops working, or whatever quip they want to use. I liked 11 minutes of passion. The problem with Joe Judge is he gets carried away, and he got carried away there. He talks too long, and he got carried away, and he ended up taking not so subtle shots at Pat Shermer, at Ron Rivera, flirting with NFL tampering laws. So he got carried away, and he said things he shouldn't have said. He spoke in hyperbole. He took some things that were true about some players who weren't here anymore, who wanted to still be here, and he made it sound like it happens once a week. That's obviously not true. And so he became kind of a punching bag. And then the final straw was last week. If anybody saw the game down there, they ran back-to-back quarterback sneaks on 2nd and 11 from their own 2-yard line and 3rd and 9 from their own 4-yard line. They were total wave the white flag, surrender play calls. I have no faith in my offensive personnel, which they have bad personnel, especially on the offensive line. That's why the GM was forced into retirement. But those play calls were so embarrassing that I think it sent the message to the owner.
He's Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post, and he's kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. You can follow him on Twitter at RY Dunleavy. Ryan, I grew up a Giants fan, and I'm old enough to recall the bad 70s and the frustration of the fan base, and it finally led to John Mara's dad to get rid of the 30 years worth of people in the front office and to hire a new. Is this where the Giants are now at? Them and the Jets are the 2 worst teams in the league over the last 5 years. I think the Giants are one of the 3 worst teams over the last 10. Are we at December, January of 78, 79 all over again?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. They have 9 interview requests out for their general manager job. None are in-house candidates. Kevin Abrams, the the cap leader, assistant GM, who has been here for 21 years and is very well liked in the building, interviewed for the job when Ernie Accorsi retired in 2007, didn't get it, stayed. Interviewed when Jerry Reese got fired and Dave Gettleman got the job in 2017, didn't get it, stayed. He's not even getting a courtesy interview this time. So there are 9 GM candidates, all external, all from playoff teams. So whoever they hire will be the first outside of the Giants network hire since the day you're talking about in January of '79 when they brought in George Young from the league office. This will be their first outside hire since then. So yes, it was awful then, a decade of losing. It's been awful now, a decade of losing. And John Mara is going to follow his father's blueprint.
Okay, that being said, it is a different time. How much do people want this job? How high up can they go in terms of getting the elite candidates who normally are interviewing ownership, not ownership interviewing them? How worthy is this job? How desirable is this job for these candidates in your estimation, Ryan?
That is a terrific question. I'm not sure I know the answer. I had coaches yesterday texting me, and this isn't GMs, but I had coaches yesterday texting me. I've always heard it's a great place to work there. What happened? And it's like, I don't know if it's a great place to work anymore. That's certainly been the reputation for 40 years. I don't know. They fired the last 3 head coaches after 2 years each. So I don't know that it's a great place to work anymore. Look, here's what everybody will tell you. There's only 32 of these jobs. It's New York. If you can win there, it's the best place to win. All that's true, okay? But if I took away the logo, if I took away the reputation of 40 years that whatever hasn't been tainted by the last 10 years, I don't know if it's a great place to work. The offensive line is atrocious. The defensive line is, the pass rush, let's include edge rushers, because that's really what I'm talking about, is atrocious. So you need to spend draft picks and free agent money on the 2 most expensive positions, offensive line and pass rush. So the talent isn't very good. You have to hire a coach. The fan base expectations are through the roof. They were going to be patient with Joe Judge. He had a terrible season and he's fired because the fans revolted. So the fan base expectations aren't realistic. The personnel is bad, and the salary cap situation is a disaster. So sure, it's one of 32 jobs. It's in New York, but if you put all the jobs in a spreadsheet and put the factors down, the Giants' factors don't look pretty.
I'm very depressed.
That right there, I will tell you what, Ryan, out of the 2 of us on this show, I am more of the fan of my teams and my co-host. He does a really good job of keeping everything on the inside. As you gave that answer, I watched my co-host go into the fetal position in the corner.
I'm very sad, Ryan. And it's because I know all of it's true. That's the other thing. The Giants had to cut players or move them around on the roster to literally stay under the cap and be able to field a full roster during the second half of the season. That's how little money the Giants had. And they have so much money committed over the next 2 years that the Giants, this isn't the Jets. All right. The Jets have like $62 million they can spend next year. All right. The Giants have, Ryan, those 2 draft picks and not much else.
You nailed it. That's correct. The top assets they have are 2 top 10 picks. Other than that, I don't know. It can't be a quick fix. It's just the Jets sometimes have a hard time getting free agents to sign with the Jets, right? Because there's this same old Jets mantra, and you haven't won in all this time. So they sometimes have to overpay guys to come there. The Giants don't have to do that. But because their drafting has been so bad for so long, Dave Gettleman missed on almost every pick he had. Jerry Reese, the last 4 years of his tenure, which included 2 Super Bowls, by the way, he missed on almost every pick for 4 years. So their drafting has been so bad that they've had to sign free agents to stay competitive. And when you sign free agents to big contracts, you run out of cap space. James Bradbury, good player, making $20 million. Kenny Golladay, good player, making $18 million. Leonard Williams, good player, making $21 million. Those are all inflated numbers because they're all free agents.
Ryan, one final question. If you go back the 40 plus years when Wellington Mara and Tisch agreed on George Young. They then got out of the way. George Young was the one who then hired Ray Perkins, which led to Parcells, etc. All right. I'm hearing that they're going to hire a general manager, and then they are also going to have great influence into who the head coach is. Is that true?
That's what they say. And it's significant because that's, like you said, that's never really that's not been the case since John Mara took over. He's the team president as well as the co-owner. Everything kind of runs through him. GM has final say, but he knows he's got to get it approved by John Mara, who only really blocks the ridiculous things. But that's what they're saying this time. It's going to be more hands off. The general manager is going to pick the coach, not the owner / president. That's clearly John Mara is clearly the one who picked Joe Judge. So say it's going to be more. They say it's going to be more GM dictated this time. It's probably the way to go. And Steve Tisch is always kind of hands off. He flies in every 2 years for a coach firing and for some games, but he's not really involved in the day-to-day. So that's not really a question. It's John Mara has an office in the building. How involved will he be?
I lied very quickly. Are they going to move fast enough to get a Brian Flores, or are they going to probably lose out on the A-listers available because certain teams already have GMs and they're going to be able to move a lot quickly?
Look, Brian Flores is a New York guy. He's certainly on their list, but there is a fear in that building right now of Bill Belichick coaching tree guys. So I don't know that Flores or Dayball or Josh McDaniels is a great fit because there'd probably be some of the same problems disconnecting with his staff, long practices, etc. Are they going to move fast enough? Probably not. Some guys will be gone for 6 openings. Some guys will be gone before they have their head coach, but I don't know that that's a problem. You say A-listers, there's no one in this coaching market I have to have.
Ryan Dunleavy, New York Post. He covers the NFL. We've been focusing on the Giants because yesterday, late afternoon, they got rid of head coach Joe Judge after their GM retired the day before. Ryan, thanks for making time for us. We appreciate it. Stay warm, stay safe.
Thanks. Have me anytime, guys.
Ryan Dunleavy, New York Post. Follow him on Twitter, RY Dunleavy, RY Dunleavy.
You know, I'm listening to that and watching you and having just a hell of a time. But when the Flores things come up and it's like he's a Belichick guy, the practices are going to be too long. It's about he went back-to-back winning seasons with the Miami Dolphins. I'm telling you that, New York Giants, because, well, you're a train wreck. Long practices might be just what the doctor ordered. A year of figuring out who still wants to play football might be just what the doctor ordered. You could do a lot worse than Brian Flores.
Yes, they could. They just have 3 in a row. 3 in a row.
And now you, in theory, have a guy that learned a little bit. He got fired. No matter what he thinks of himself and how highly he thinks of how he does things, there's self-assessment going on. When you get fired, there's self-assessment. Trust me. I've been there.
But that's what people don't fully understand. It's why I wanted to dive into it just a little bit more. The Giants situation is bad. I mean, you know, you look at the 7 teams that have jobs available. Mark, if you can take a look at everything in its totality, you know, the Giants think of the 7 teams I'm about to mention. Where's Daniel Jones on the quarterback list? Chicago, Minnesota, Denver, Miami, Jacksonville, Las Vegas.
Do that again just a little more slowly.
Chicago.
Okay.
You take Fields over
I'd
Jones.
take Fields.
Minnesota.
I'd take Cousins.
Denver.
They're
about the same.
I'll take whatever Denver's drafting instead of Daniel Jones.
Fair enough. Miami.
I'll take Tua.
Jacksonville.
I'll take Trevor Lawrence.
And obviously Carr with the Raiders. I mean, so they've got the worst, arguably, quarterback situation of the 7 openings. They have far and away the worst cap situation of the 7. Present and immediate future. And the
Other
rosters,
than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
And the roster's the worst of the bunch, by the way. That's right. It's worse than Jacksonville's, because at least Jacksonville's got about $70 million that they can spend to beef it up.
Chicago Bear fan, if you were upset before, you have to feel a little better now. We'll talk to Patrick Finley about your situation next.
The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, roars through the streets of beautiful downtown St. Petersburg, February 25th to the 27th. 3-day tickets are on sale now at gpstpete.com. It's fast, fun, family entertainment jam-packed into 3 days. The weekend is highlighted by the NTT IndyCar Series race taking the green flag on Sunday afternoon. It all happens at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, presented by RP Funding, February 25th to the 27th. Get your tickets at gpstpete.com to secure the best seats.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M, only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
We said it yesterday. I think Flores just screams the Bears. Standing out there, 12 degrees, snowing.
Yeah, no sleeves.
He's in just one of those workout pullovers that does have sleeves, but that's it. No jacket, standing there, the hands on his hips.
Well, it was like when you saw the video of Tomlin dancing with the guys in there when he's throwing the punches. That Tomlin just looks the part. I think Flores would totally fit in with the Bears. What about Harbaugh to the New York Giants?
Well, I'm all in. But
I mean, could they pull that off? I'm asking. Oh, wow. The Detroit shows got knocked off the air this morning again. The morning show.
You mean technical troubles? Is their engineer down here? Oh. That's a problem.
Well, apparently they've been screwing up because they're using the system we're using, and they were taking hard breaks before, and they never had a problem with it. Now they're trying to take, tone breaks, and it's caused difficult. I don't know. Hey, my tweet worked. I scheduled all these middle of the show. thing you just retweeted. I did that about an hour ago.
Oh, so it did it automatically?
So what I'm going to start doing in the morning is I'm going to send the one, and then I'll set up everything for the show so that literally I did this one so it went at 8:57.
Right.
Boom. I don't have to sit here and worry about it. It just
Right.
goes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now it's so long, David. I just comb it wet straight back and just let it fall however it wants.
I will say you do have a little rocker thing going here with it, like how your hair is just kind of.
It's kind of a max headroom is what I've been referring to. Because I notice when this gets up high, it makes my face look thinner. I love it. I just love the fact that I came home the other day and I looked and I went, holy crap, look at that. Because I've forgotten. It's long enough now. I literally get out of the shower and I just straight back, do my thing and leave.
Right.
You know, I had that growth for a week, and my neighbor, who I always see him walking the dog, and Vinny goes, you shaved. I'm like, Vinny, you know that was just lazy. I get up at 4:30 in the morning.
Right.
It's just,
there's no way I'm gonna.
I go and I get
risk.
home. I get home from work at 10:30. I go, I'm not gonna shave when I get home from work.
15 seconds. Patrick's on hold, by the way.
All right. Oh, that's what I got to do.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Bonus hour of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. We'll head to Georgia in about 20 minutes. Ryan Kerley covers the Dogs, the national champions from Athens. First time you could say that since the Carter administration. It's been since the Reagan administration, since the Bears won the Super Bowl. They're searching for a new regime. Patrick Finley covers them in the NFL for the Chicago Sun-Times. You can follow Patrick on Twitter at Patrick Finley. Patrick, it's David Mark once again. How you been? Thanks for your time. How are you?
Doing okay. A little busy. A little busier than we were at this time last year.
Can you clear something up for us? Bill Polian's involvement here, how big is it?
It's big, and it's big for one reason, which is that they brought him in before they decided to fire everybody. So his input led to the Bears' decision to let Ryan Pace go. Matt Nagy, I think you or I or anybody off the street probably would have known that it was time to fire him. And he is now one of the 5 people who are going to be conducting every interview that the Bears do until they have a general manager in place. And, the other 4 people on that list are essentially a diversity and inclusion officer, someone who is in charge of being a liaison to the locker room, and George McCaskey is the chairman, and Ted Phillips is the president. So it's a pretty short list of people who know football. And you can rest assured that everybody there, even the ones who do know football, are going to be looking at Bill Polian for guidance.
Is it then far more pressing to get the coach hired first, the GM hired first? Is the GM going to have to live with what decisions made by this group? But it is a little unseemly, isn't it?
Yeah, in a perfect world, the Bears would hire a GM first and he'd turn around and hire a head coach. But you know how fast these things go. The Bears are booking interviews with guys who are allowed to talk now. Those are coaches whose teams aren't in the playoffs this weekend. And there's going to be a couple interviews conducted with head coaches who before the Bears land a GM. It's just kind of what's the way they have to do it. The only way I think they hire a coach first is if there is somebody so coveted or somebody who is currently employed elsewhere who might not come unless that were the case. And I don't see the Bears getting in a big bidding war for a guy like that, a Jim Harbaugh type. But I think that's the only way they hire the coach before the GM. Otherwise, if you like Brian Flores, you might have to say, hey, Brian, we're going to need you to wait a little bit until we hire a GM and make sure that that's a good fit. And with him in particular, that's a giant question.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. I mean, they're trying to disparage him as much as they can coming out of South Florida, even though he's the only Dolphins coach in a generation to have back-to-back winning seasons. Patrick, why not a Jim Harbaugh? It only seems perfect. He's from that part of the world. He played for the franchise. He has a proven track record in the NFL, which is a winning one. He was a quarterback. He helped develop. He got the best out of Alex Smith and then helped develop Colin Kaepernick. I mean, why not Jim Harbaugh?
No, Jim Harbaugh makes sense. He turned Colin Kaepernick into a Super Bowl quarterback. If you are looking for an identity, and if you're looking for a personality, and if you're looking for somebody who, the minute you walk in the building, you know whose building it is, Jim Harbaugh certainly fits the bill. It is not like the Bears to go throwing more money around than they absolutely have to, although that reputation is slowly changing. They did trade for Khalil Mack. I don't know that they're going to want to get in a bidding war and pay Jim Harbaugh like he's Bill Belichick to get him to go. And I'm still I understand, the reporting out there about what he's telling recruits and all of that. I'm still wondering if he's looking for that Mel Tucker extension more than anything else.
See, and I don't buy that only because he paid so much money to the people at U of M who didn't get paid. I mean, he sacrificed. And look, I'm a Michigan State guy. I want Harbaugh to stay at Michigan forever. It's worked out pretty well for me. But I don't buy the money part of it because of what he's done the last year. The other side of this, to me, when you look at the Bears' job for Harbaugh, would he want? Do you think they're limiting themselves by this approach with Polian? Because a lot of these coaches are going to want more authority on player personnel. When you have a group like this and it screams, you're the head coach, you're not the GM, or is that not the case, Patrick?
What they believe in is the general manager above the coach. Every coach has a little bit, in Matt Nagy's case, Matt Nagy had a little more say in the roster than the Bears wanted to publicize. But, speaking very generally, the GM handles buys the groceries and the coach does the cooking. And the Bears do believe in that. Would they make an exception for Harbaugh? I mean, I think that's the only kind of person that you would make an exception for, is to bring somebody in and then let him, pick his own guy as GM. And that has worked some places. I mean, that worked with Pete Carroll. I mean, even when you look at Ron Rivera in Washington, I mean, that's what happened, although I think they hired the GM a year later. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of fit for Harbaugh, I know he loves the Bears, and I know that the Bears have a unnatural pride. They have a pride in their past that not a lot of teams can match. So in that sense, it would be a good fit. I don't know whether Las Vegas is a better situation for him or not. We'll see. You feel like everybody's waiting for the Raiders season to end before anything.
Patrick Finley, who covers the Bears and the NFL for the Chicago Sun-Times. You can follow him on Twitter at Patrick Finley. We just talked at Giants before we brought you on. And, we had an honest discussion about, I know the name has a little special something, but let's dig down on this job. And you realize the Giants' job is a bad job right now, and it's probably going to be a bad job for at least 2 more years, because of their roster and salary cap and all that. The Bears' job. How good is it right now? How good is the roster? What's the cap situation like? Once you get past the hope of Justin Fields, how good is this gig?
The cap situation next year is, I think they're in the top third in the league in terms of space. Their cap situation this year was brutal. They have Justin Fields, and if you believe in him, that's a good place to start. What's interesting to me, if I were a potential GM or a potential head coach, is that you can come in, and if it's clear 2 years from now that Justin Fields ain't the answer, it's not your fault. And you get to go get the GM or the quarterback that you want to get, particularly if you're the general manager. So it might actually buy you a little bit of time there. The roster that they have Robert Quinn, who's going to be a first-team All-Pro outside linebacker. He's approaching my age, so I don't know that he's going to be great 3 years from now, but he just had 18.5 sacks. You have Khalil Mack. You have Roquan Smith, who I think is one of the really great football players in the game. So your defensive base is there. Offensively, it gets a lot worse. David Montgomery's okay. Darnell Mooney's okay. Cole Kmet's okay, and that's bad. So, there's some work to do. I agree. I think it's a better job than the Giants in that they have space and they have a quarterback that you can still dream on. I argue that it's a better job than the Vikings because I don't know. I think Kirk Cousins is just good enough to get you fired. So, is it on par with the Dolphins? You guys know more about that than me, but that seems about right to me is a roster that's got some decent players and a quarterback that can kind of go one way or the other.
I think that's a pretty good call, Patrick. And it's funny because we've been talking about Flores, thinking he's a perfect fit for the Miami Dolphins, or for the Chicago Bears, the former Dolphins coach. That mentality, we just kind of see him with that defense, but he didn't do much with Tua, so I don't know how much that limits him. Patrick, did Ryan Pace cost Nagy his job, or did Nagy cost Pace his job?
That's a wonderful question. The two of them for years, including at the end of last season, after they both thought they might get fired last year and they weren't, really dug in on being kind of in this together. They used the word collaboration at every turn. And in that sense, they each got each other fired. I would say that Mitch Trubisky probably got both of them fired. Matt and Mitch and Ryan went 12-4 in their first season with all three of them together. They lost in that playoff game on the Cody Parkey double doink kick. And then they just got worse and worse, and Mitch got worse and worse. And you saw that when he was a free agent. This past season, nobody deemed him worthy of giving a starting opportunity. So whenever you take the number 2 pick in the draft and you don't give him his 5th-year option and he hits the market and nobody thinks he's a starter, I think it's really hard to come back from that. And I think it's remarkable that Ryan Pace got the chance to draft another quarterback. And I thought the best way for them to save their jobs this season was, to win, yes, but for Justin Fields to be undeniable. And when that didn't happen, in part because Matt Nagy refused to play him with the starters in the preseason and refused to give him an opportunity to beat out Andy Dalton in the preseason, and then Fields comes out and shockingly, there's no chemistry there because none of the other starters had ever really played with him before. I think that did them in more than anything. And in that case, that is, probably a little bit more Matt's fault than Ryan's, but Ryan had the original sin of drafting Trubisky.
Well, and I guess the great hypothetical will always be if they had gotten the quarterback choice right 4 or 5 years ago at number 2, and we all know, who they could have taken from the ACC that was not named Mitchell Trubisky, that Patrick with that defense, if they had Deshaun Watson, you wonder, how things would have been, because that team 3-4 years ago was pretty damn close.
Yeah, they were. And I mean, they were close even with Mitch Trubisky. And I'll tell you this real quick. We were at the Combine in 2017, the year that they drafted him. And we talked to Ryan Pace. We're in the hallway. And Pace is sitting there saying that the kind of quarterback that he would want would be somebody who, redefined the college program that he played for. Somebody who was really, among the elites, in his program. And we looked around and we all sit there and go, oh my God, he's talking about Deshaun Watson. I mean, there's nobody else. And as it turned out, that was a very intentional okie doke that he tried to get us off the scent of Mitch Trubisky, who had played 12 games and I believe gone 8-4 in one season at North Carolina. So that's how life goes when you're the Bears.
Patrick, thanks for giving us some time. We really appreciate it. We hope all is well with you and the family. And you're going to be busy these next couple of weeks. Good luck.
Yeah, hopefully when I'm done, I can come down by you guys. It seems a lot warmer there.
Yeah, it's cold front these days, Patrick. It's in the low 60s right now. Only going to reach mid 70s.
Oh my God! Thoughts and prayers to you guys.
Thank you. Much needed,
Patrick. Patrick Finley covers the Bears in the National Football League for the Chicago Sun-Times. Follow him on Twitter at Patrick Finley. Here's an X factor to the Bears gig and the Vikings gig for that matter. What's Aaron Rodgers going to do? Because let me tell you, both jobs get a lot better really quickly if he's playing his final games in Green Bay. Let's be brutally honest, versus how hard these jobs are for the next 2-3 years if they've put the marriage back together again and they're going to stay together for the kids. I mean, that division gets wide open.
David, that
overnight.
Division turns into last year's NFC East if Aaron Rodgers leaves it. And I'm not joking. You get to 9, you're winning the North if Green Bay loses Aaron Rodgers. Tell me, right?
Right. Well, that's why I brought it up. I mean, the Bears and Vikings job, if you look at them right now, you're going, a cap, roster, whatever. Don't know if this guy, the old guy, can still play. Don't know if the young guy is going to be good enough. Jordan Love, the starting quarterback, the Green Bay Packers. All of a sudden, you look around, and you go, well, we can get to 9-8. We might even be able to get to 10-7. Hell, we can win our division, host a playoff game right away. Right away.
So you're telling me, as a Lions fan, there's a chance.
Hey, Come
and
on
I'm not
now.
really a Lions fan. It's for the Lions fan out there.
Come on now. If Aaron Rodgers is in Denver next year or Pittsburgh or wherever.
Is Jared Goff the best quarterback in that division?
No. And I don't even care who the other three are.
I love it.
The answer.
Well played, sir. Well played, sir.
The answer is no way. Ryan Kerley, we think he got some rest.
We'll see if he's in better shape than Stetson Bennett was on Good Morning America yesterday.
Ryan
Because
Kerley.
he was hammered.
Yes, he was.
And he should have been.
Yes. He just won the last football game he's ever going to play. And he's going to live a really good life off of it. Ryan Kerley to talk about the Dogs as national champions next on Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network.
The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Who was younger than me. She did a few things, this, that, and the other. When I met Eve, I kind of lost all,
Right.
time to lose every ex-girlfriend's number
Sure.
type thing. She's doing insurance in Naples. Killing it.
Oh,
Gorgeous.
she is. Right.
And she's young. I'm 50. She was 14 years younger than me. So she's like 38 now.
Oh, yeah, God. Right.
Down there, that's
Right.
that's the golden age to make money. Because now you're dealing with all the me's of the world.
Well, and that's the person that I've always said that they need to hire, for the marketing. I mean, they need to send a couple of, attractive, ideally if you got them at 30 and then, they learn the ropes and the whole deal.
They
But
need to take one of their basketball coaches and turn him into a salesperson.
Right.
One of the assistants for Carl there.
So if you're Stetson Bennett, that night they tell you, hey, they're going to have you on Good Morning America tomorrow. Really?
Oh, no, you do it.
You got to do it, obviously, to boost your brand.
But he did.
But
there's no downside. Even if you appear groggy and drunk, there's still no downside.
Because that's
it'll only increase his stature in Athens, to be honest with you. And that's where you're going to spend the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah, I mean, his being drunk on live television nationwide yesterday is nothing but a positive.
Oh, yeah, it's nothing but, yeah.
Was there any article that you read that mocked him or just said he was hammered on Good Morning America?
Oh, yeah, it's funny, but
and I didn't see it. I mean, I thought he was great with Holly Rowe. Holly tried to ask him a couple of questions if, you're the inspiration for walk-ons. And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. I hope if it does something for somebody, that's great.
And he's like slurring his words. Like, I don't know. I mean,
no, that was the post game. I was talking about the post game. He wasn't slurring anything post game. I'm saying, he got asked that by Holly post game, and
he's like, I have no idea.
He got asked two questions that were a little bigger than him, and he had no problem saying, I don't know.
I mean,
you don't play walk-on quarterback if you're dumb. He's got to have a little bit of a brain.
I mean, he's just being honest. Hey, I just won. I don't know. I don't know what to think right now.
It better be Harbor or bust. Firing Flores makes of me thinking of shifting my allegiance to Jacksonville. That's how mad I am.
Ooh.
That's a text.
We're losing a
Dolphin
Dolphin
right here.
Right.
Stetson Bennett's going to be on game day in Athens, like in 25 years.
I don't think so.
No, he might be on the SEC network.
That is if game day even exists.
As long as there's college football, game day will exist. Don't kid yourself. It's a money-making sucker right there. By the way, in the new recruiting rankings, Florida State #1 in the transfer portal by a long shot on 24/7.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, 24/7's got them with the 14th recruiting classes. And where do they have them on the combo?
Brian's on hold.
Great.
These guys down the hall that ring the bell. What show is that?
Big Mama.
Big Mama and the Wild Bunch.
Mhm.
203.
Who's this guy work for?
He works for dog_post.
10 seconds.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour as we begin to make the turn for home on this edition of Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Ryan Kerley's kind enough to join us. He covers the Dogs, who are national champions for the first time in 41 years. Ryan writes for Dog Post. You can follow Ryan on Twitter. Ryan, the letter C, Kerley, Kerley. Ryan, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Well, we are doing well. And does life seem just a little different in Athens than you remember it?
Yes. I actually just got back to Athens at about 1 a.m. So I've been here for about 8 hours.
Did you go directly to the bar when you arrived? I mean, was it worth it to make last call somewhere, or did you just had enough at Indy and had to just shut it down?
Dude, I just went and I got in my bed immediately after I unpacked.
Ryan, by the way, was supposed to join us yesterday, and when we texted with him, he texted me about noon and said, "I am so sorry, was up till 7, just woke up." As the way it should be. And congratulations, because one, you cover the team, but obviously you're a fan. And I know from firsthand experience how long the Georgia Bulldog Nation has waited for this. Is it as fulfilling as you thought it would be?
It was. I thought about that, and I talked to some people who, thought, oh, well, it didn't feel as good as I thought it did. And then others were in the same boat as me, where that just felt relieving and rewarding. Those are probably the two words that I'd use to describe it. But 41 years is a long time for a fan base, and I haven't been alive that long, so I haven't waited 41 years personally. But I've watched the Dogs for a long time, and that game to me was very important in a lot of ways, and poetic too. I mean, they beat Alabama in the national championship. That game mattered so much for this program, and it's only going to springboard them even further.
Well, Ryan, you said it was important in many ways. And, we remembered in the hours leading up to the game as to, man, could Georgia handle a loss? Or does this feel like, man, it's it's now or never. Your thoughts in the immediate aftermath as to now, what does this mean? What does this do?
Well, I think we're in a position where there's 2 or 3 teams that are recruiting at a super high level and that are performing at a high level, and that's Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State's in that ballpark too. And these teams are going to continue to win championships, and Georgia is a contender with Kirby Smart and company at the helm. The way they recruit, you had all the drama with Dan Mullen and recruiting, and you see these teams that are getting the 5 stars are the ones that perform, and that's a direct result. And they won the national championship. But you're going to see the same teams make it really far, is what I think. And I think Georgia's going to be in that conversation as long as Kirby Smart is performing the way he has.
When you said a lot of things about Georgia, and I just think the way they won, you mentioned that, Ryan, is that probably the biggest part of it, because we all know what Georgia's done in the 4 previous losses to Alabama, and that they had leads in these games. They had lead in the SEC championship. They've found ways to lose this football game. The national championship game, they actually, probably despite Stetson Bennett, found a way to win the football game.
Yeah, well, I thought Stetson played well. It wasn't his best game, but it was, for the most part, a clean game. And that's kind of what I was saying leading into this game. If Stetson Bennett just plays a clean game and the defense improves from the last time they played Alabama, then Georgia should win. Because the fact of the matter is, Georgia just had a better roster this time. And I think this season was the first time we could really say that, when they were playing Alabama, is that they have the better roster and the better team. I mean, the only things really that Alabama was better at were they had a better head coach and a better quarterback, and then maybe there's a couple players here and there. They had really great receivers, but Georgia, for the most part, was better than them in the other areas. And so it just came down to, they're the better team. They needed to play like it on the day that they're facing Alabama. And that's finally what happened on Monday night. And we saw Stetson Bennett did what he needed to do, and the defense played a lot better than they did on December 4th.
He also writes for SB Nation and Peachtree Hoops, but he covers the Dogs for Dog Post. That's DAWG Post. He's Ryan Kerley. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan, the letter C, Kerley, Kerley. Ryan Kerley joining us here on Miller and Moulton. All right. They won't in Athens, obviously. You don't wait 41 years or something and turn the page quickly. But humor us. This team next year, we know they'll be preseason top whatever. It'll be really, really high. But what are they losing off what was clearly the deepest team in college football?
Yeah, so they're going to lose a couple pass rushers. You're going to lose your middle linebacker and Kobe Dean. I mean, these are just, there's a lot of juniors and seniors that are going to be gone. There's a lot of NFL talent on this team. You're going to lose Jordan Davis. You're going to lose a couple defensive backs, including Darian Kendrick. You're probably going to lose both James Cook and Zamir White. I think that it's still very possible you lose George Pickens. And then the fact of the matter is, we have absolutely no idea at this point in time who the starting quarterback is going to be next year. Stetson Bennett can come back. JT Daniels is in the mix. And then you got a couple other young guys that are going to be there. And then there's always the transfer portal. The reality is that we're not sure who is going to be lining up under center for Georgia next year. I think Georgia's going to be a top 5 team kind of regardless, because they just are going to plug and play a lot of people, and they're keeping a lot of offensive talent. But it's still up in the air as to who the starting quarterback is going to be. My guess right now is that Stetson is not going to come back, kind of fulfilled what he wanted to do, won the national championship right off into the sunset kind of deal. But he can come back if he wants.
Yeah, David and I are of that opinion that Stetson Bennett's insurance agency could take a big blow if he doesn't ride off into the sunset this year. I mean, that's a guy that will never have to pay for a thing of the rest of his life. And most of these members of the Georgia football team are in the same boat. But I mean, I know you said he played a clean game. He did have the one fumble. I mean, at the end of the day, Stetson Bennett doesn't win a national title every year. This happens once in a lifetime, doesn't it?
I mean, he has gotten so much better than what we saw last year and what we saw in 2019 when he was Jake Fromm's backup. I mean, this is not the same Stetson Bennett. I'm not saying that Stetson Bennett is now an NFL player. I personally don't really think he has an NFL future in any way. Maybe as a backup of sorts, but we saw Stetson Bennett play so much better, and Stetson Bennett has the demeanor, he has the swag that some people don't have. He knows what people were saying about him, online, what the pundits were, and he just went out there, and I mean, he has a flip phone, for crying out loud. He got off his social media. I mean, he went out there and just played his game, and I mean, he delivered some beautiful throws. That throw to A.D. Mitchell in the fourth quarter, that 40-yard touchdown, one of the 5 best throws I've seen him make. A very, very impressive throw. But, he did have the one turnover. But, I think a few days before the game, I was talking on our YouTube channel, and the turnovers are one of the biggest parts of the matchup between Georgia and Alabama wins the turnover battle almost every time. Well, this time Georgia did. Bryce Young throws 2 picks. That's something that was really important. But as far as Stetson Bennett goes, he has improved a lot, and people thought that he just couldn't beat Alabama. Well, he is part of the reason why Georgia beat Alabama and they're national championships now. So the apologies for him, I think, should be just as loud as the hate was.
Well, Ryan, we think he's going to make a fortune selling insurance. You could see the billboards for 30, 40 years. And we also think, Buck Belew's had a 40-year broadcasting career off the 1980. Yeah. I think we know who the next radio analyst is going to be for the Georgia Bulldogs whenever that day comes.
He's going to have his pick of the litter of what he wants to do in Athens. That's what I think.
Ryan, thanks for making time for us. Hope you'll enjoy it, because you never know when it's going to come around again, and continued success with SB Nation, Peachtree Hoops, and Dog Post.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Ryan Kerley, you can follow him on Twitter at Ryan, the letter C, Kerley, Ryan C. Kerley. Georgia and Alabama have both come out publicly, Mark, and said that, they're not quite as set up and as all in on NIL as some of the others are. I mean, don't get me wrong.
They will be.
Right. But that right now, others are jumped out ahead, including Florida.
Do not sleep on this Gator Collective. I've been only talking about it every day for a month. What they have pulled off in a short time, I am so fascinated by, because, again, there's 2 models. Big boosters give huge sums of money to set up some arbitrary 501(c) company that's a charitable organization that's just going to pay athletes. It's a sneaky way to do it. It's not really a charity, but it will be. That's one. That's going to work. But what Florida's done is put essentially us in it, our listeners, all of you, me, David, people who are lower class, middle class, upper middle class, that can afford $20 a month to get all the information that there is about their favorite team. And the subscriptions are through the roof, and the money it's going to create is pretty damn big. I am all in on what Florida's trying to pull off here, David.
Was on Buddy Martin's show last night, and I followed the gentleman who was setting that up, and I was just listening, obviously, and you could see the people who were subscribing every minute that he was doing the interview. All right. It was like 5 subscriptions, 7, 8, people who commenting kind of like this Twitch chat room. Sign me up. I'm in. What do I have to do?
Speaking of which, twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. That's where you can watch the show. We ask you to follow. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you actually get a free subscription to Twitch. It wouldn't even cost you anything. And that way, Miller and Moulton get a little bit off of your wife's Amazon Prime account.
A little something for you.
Yeah. A little something for you, a little something for us. Some say these commercial breaks are a little more entertaining on Twitch. I don't know.
26 minutes before the hour. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when. Final thoughts on what has been a lively, busy Hump Day edition of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
It's been a great start to the NFL season, and it's only getting better at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. DraftKings is putting new customers in the center of the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Get in on the action now. It's simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the NFL action like never before with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings app now and use code M&M. This week, new customers can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Enter code M&M to get a free shot at millions in total prizes with your first deposit. That's code M&M. Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Don't look that up.
Do you know, David, and I don't think you do, but I'm going to ask you anyhow.
He's from Memphis.
Do you know Bill LaPlante?
Yes.
Media Alliance?
Yeah, he's like followed us for,
Do you know him?
years and years ago. I had a little.
Okay. He just sent me a LinkedIn message, said he's helped build a few networks. Maybe I could help with your Act 3, and I just forwarded it directly to Marty. Thanks for the note. I forwarded. I love it. My kid texted me yesterday. Natty and Lindstrom, head of hockey ops for the Wings. Been a pretty good 24 hours. Did you see that they hired Lindstrom as their director of hockey ops?
Did not.
And he's staying in Sweden.
I was going to say.
No, he's staying there.
Wow.
Stevie wants someone over. You know what? When they got great.
Yes.
Their European scouting was light years ahead of everybody.
They were first with the Russians, and then they were
the first with the Swedes.
To go all in with the Euros. Yep.
And what Jake's been telling me, because I've not been paying attention to worldwide hockey, but like, I think the Red Wings drafted a German player. Like, German hockey is like, if there would have been an Olympics this year, there was no telling who was going to win medals.
Right.
Like, there were 8 countries that were vying for medals, and that's not happened before. So I thought that was interesting. My buddy on Facebook lives in Minneapolis. He posted the temperature yesterday, and he posted it next to the temperature in Antarctica. I think I really need to move to somewhere warmer.
Nice.
Antarctica is warmer. I thought that was pretty solid. Sure, you probably had seen that before.
Oh, yeah.
We
had those. We had those all the time.
I thought that was good.
I mean, I will say, when you're living in a place in which there were multiple times in which it was literally the coldest place on earth, you're like, son of a.
By the way, Bro Bible is reporting. You may have already seen this, but apparently there was a story out yesterday that Kevin Warren has dug in on the Power 5 conference champs each having autos.
Yep.
What the absolute hell is that?
Right. And Sankey is like, well, we're going to give the top 6. I mean, no offense. If one of our champions is not good enough to be one of the 6 best conference champions, no offense, they don't deserve to be in the
Minnesota
playoff.
gets in and beats Ohio State, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And so, as Sankey has said, he's like, remember, there has to be 2 other conferences. You have to have both the AAC and the Mountain West champion be better than your champion, be ranked higher than your champion. And Sankey and others have argued, and the Notre Dame guy, I think, is on Sankey's side with this too, in which he's like, hey, come on. But,
20 seconds.
Super Bowl picks. I made mine in late August. I picked the Packers beating the Bills.
I can't believe I picked Georgia to win the Natty and then went away from it on Monday. What the hell happened to me?
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Minutes before the hour of 10 o'clock on Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, the Florida Sports Network. Before we get into what it is we do to end the show these days, did you see that DirecTV and Dish are back trying to merge?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know how they survive without it. Even with the possibility that DirecTV is going to keep the Sunday ticket, with the number of cord cutters that are out there. I mean, basically, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for the two of them. But they have totally different marketing mantras. Dish TV, I'm there if you don't want to pay for anything. I mean, that's basically, if you're the cheapest people on earth, we're there for you.
Right. We're the Spirit Airlines.
Yeah. And DirecTV is, if you want to overpay for your cable but get sports packaging, we're there for you.
Right. We're American Airlines. We sound like we're a big deal. There's not free food or a television to be found on any of our flights.
You in this American no TV thing has got you really honked on.
Yeah. Yes. It really does bother me. A lot.
I really wish I could sit you down, get you into a show, have you download 3 Netflix episodes, and put your computer on and watch. You'd be happier. What if we just start downloading a lot of those football lives?
Have to admit, that make the flights go a lot faster. Time now for...
Leave it to the oldest guy in the show, and definitely the oldest soul.
No
to
blank
live
there.
in the past. Here's David Moulton with Today Was the Day When...
116 years ago is where we're going to start. 1906. They legalized the forward pass in football.
Boy, was Moulton pissed that day.
What are we going to run the damn ball? 1915, the House of Representatives rejects the idea to give women the right to vote. They changed their mind 5 years later. And that's when the Major League Baseball draft and the inverse order of where you finish was agreed to on this date in 1920. 1939, Mark, Timely Comics was founded. It would become Marvel.
Ooh, pretty big day then. Thank goodness Seth wore some sort of Spider-Man shirt.
1946, the Cleveland Rams, who were NFL champions, given permission to leave for Los Angeles. 1957, the Southern Christian Leadership Council was founded.
That can't mean anything good.
By Martin Luther King Jr.
See, I thought that was going crazy. I thought you were...
No.
That did not sound like something that was going to be good when you started that.
The SCLC, founded by Martin Luther King Jr., at this little Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta.
sounds like something that was going to be protesting. That sounded like a PMRC when you started it, David.
Right. No, it turned out that there were a lot of others that had a problem with it. They were actually trying to do good things. On this day in 1958, the NCAA added the 2-point conversion to college football.
It would only take the NFL.
Right, about 50 years. On this day in 1966, Batman debuted on ABC. On this day in 60s, kabam, boom. Maybe that's where John Madden got it from. Probably watching Batman.
Yep.
1967, the Louisville Draft Board refuses to give an exemption to one Muhammad Ali. Later in 67, he would have his World Heavyweight Championship title stripped from him. On this date in 1969, some say it's the most important football game ever played. The Jets 16, the Colts 7 in the old Orange Bowl. Joe Namath, your Super Bowl MVP. But, Mark, was it a bigger day in sports than it was in music? Because on this day in 1969, Led Zeppelin released Led Zeppelin.
I am going to listen to that so loudly today.
That's a good poll question in and of itself. Which was a bigger event in their industry?
Jets.
Led Zeppelin was a big deal, though.
They were.
Big deal.
But I
Music,
don't
yeah.
think at the time that was as significant as what the Jets beating the Colts
it's
were.
true. At the time, the world stopped. What? The AFL team won? All in the Family premiered on this date in 1971 on CBS. And in the first episode, the first ever toilet flush was heard on television. It's so funny, the little things in this country. You know, Lucy and the...
That's the first one's in the same bed,
you know,
right?
Lucy was
and Desi.
Lucy and Desi, in the same bed, then her appearing pregnant. I mean, that show had so many firsts that had never been shown in television. All in the Family, the first toilet flush.
Which became damn near a staple of that show.
Yes.
Of Archie going upstairs with the newspaper, and then
Yep.
you'd hear the toilet flush.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do a whole scene.
And then the toilet
And
would
then
flush.
the toilet flush.
Right. 1975, the Steelers began becoming the Steelers. Their first Super Bowl win was on this date in 75, 16-6 over the Vikings. A dominant performance. The Vikings' only points was on a block punt recovered in the end zone. Mark, it was on this day in 1981 that Dynasty premiered on ABC. It was this day in 86 when the Bears reached their first Super Bowl. They shut out the Rams 24-0. But the part of the story that doesn't get told enough is the Patriots going into the OB and beating the Dolphins 31-14. The wild card fifth-seeded Patriots. Because, you know, we would have gotten the Bears-Dolphins rematch. Marino and company, they'd beaten them on Monday Night Football. Not to be, obviously. Highest scoring college basketball game was 30 years ago today in Troy, Alabama. DeVry scored 149 points, Mark, and lost by 109. That's right. Troy State 258, DeVry 149. 407 points scored in that basketball game.
Wow.
1993, Mark, Dick Clark inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. On this date in 95.
By the way, just quick footnote on that 93 Hall of Fame ceremony. Van Morrison was also inducted, became the first living inductee to skip the induction ceremony. And he's kind of a jerk, so it fits.
In 95, the Hall of Fame induction ceremony included the Allman Brothers, Janis Joplin, Led Zeppelin, Neil Young, Frank Zappa.
Right. Wondering why it took him so long. That's the 10th one, and we got to get Led Zeppelin. It took 9 other inductions to say Led Zeppelin belongs into the hall. Okay.
Also on this date in 1995, OJ's murder trial gets underway. 12 years ago was the devastating earthquake in Haiti. And it was 7 years ago today that Urban Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes whooped up on Oregon 42-20 to win the national championship. Buckeyes have not won one since. The Pac-12 has not played for one since. Tim Horton, born on this day in 1930. He only lived to be 44 years old.
He was killed on his drive back, from Buffalo to Toronto, right?
Joe Frazier would have been 78 today. Tom Dempsey would have been 75. Rush Limbaugh would have been 71. Bill Madlock and Drew Pearson are both 71 today, as is Kirstie Alley. Howard Stern is 68. Dominique Wilkins is 62. Jeff Bezos is 58. And
how do you think Neek would do in a dunk contest today?
You know, it's funny. I have actually run into him my last 2 times in Atlanta. He looks really good.
Of course he does.
I don't know how well he moves, but I know how well he looks. 62. The D train is 40.
Dontrell Willis?
Dontrell Willis is 40.
He could still get you 3 outs.
I think he could. That funky motion. He's left-handed.
Still get you 3 outs.
I totally agree with you. And that was...
All right, just a couple of very, very small omissions, just because I wanted to. 1974, The Joker is number 1 by Steve Miller. 1991, Australian band The Divinyls hit the charts with I Touch Myself, scaring every mother into oblivion.
Yeah.
And in 1999, Britney released her first album.
Oops.
Baby One More Time.
Gotcha.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
The good is a follow-up. It was a bad or an ugly earlier when David Perkins and Skylar Jacobson started a fire in the Keys and burnt part of the southernmost point marker. It has been completely restored. Took them 11 days to turn that around and get everything ready. Great job by the folks at the Keys. And for David, I give a follow-up and a good simultaneously.
Well done by you.
For the bad, we go to New Berrytown, Pennsylvania, where police pulled over a suspected drunken driver and discovered that, well, it was a damn near a scene out of a movie, David, because a live deer had been hit and placed in the hatchback of the car. After police stopped, they realized the deer was still alive, but kept driving anyway. Police say they told the passenger to release the deer. In the video, it struggled as it was carried across the road. The 19-year-old driving still got pulled over for a Dewey. And finally, the ugly, we'll bring it back home, where Dylan Medior was being treated at the Health Park Center when he became aggressive with the nurse. Security arrived. He became extremely aggressive with them and then bit one of the security guards' finger off. He went from Health Park to the county jail.
Left ring finger, I believe it is, the top knuckle down.
Don't know if he'll be able to play D-back after that, but the man accused of the biting will spend a little time in the pokey. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, January the 12th, 2022.
All right. The Magic are in Washington. Wizards are a 4.5-point favorite. I think I'd lay the points. Heat are in Atlanta, take on the Hawks, and the Hawks are favored by 3. I think I might take the points there. A TNT NHL doubleheader. One of the last great rivalries in sports in which it literally does not matter what the team's records are. They hate each other. The Canadians and the Bruins in Boston.
Yep. Great rivalry.
10 o'clock, by the way, it's Leafs and Coyotes. Not a great rivalry, but you actually get hockey on one of the networks that cover it today, and that hasn't happened a whole lot. College hoops, it's a good day. Florida's at home against LSU on the Deuce at 7. I can't believe they have Duke Wake Forest on the ACC network. That's a really good game. Wake's 13-3.
And best Wake team we've had in a few years. So, yeah, you are onto something. But David, they're trying to get that ACC network in a few
I
more
know,
homes.
I know. Nova Xavier on FS1 at 6:30. And I believe FGCU is playing this afternoon a makeup game against Kennesaw State. No, it's tomorrow. My bad. Never mind.
Poll question today. What have you done most recently? Mailed a stamped envelope or written a check? Written a check is barely winning in this vote. 53% to 47%. Go to that Mark Miller or the David Moulton to vote.
What's winning?
Written a check.
All right. Good. That's where my vote was. I like to be on the winning side of these things more times than not.
Neither wasn't an option, and I couldn't remember which one I'd done last.
Could you at some point today think when's the last time you did either one? Miller and Moulton. Have a great rest of your hump day. Thanks for listening.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo.